Hello. Good morning, good evening, good night. We're live. We are live,
Hello,
right, Douglas?
We are live.
I'm live.
Okay. We're live. I'm coming to you from the Mover Command Center. Wombat is in the Wombat Command Center, and Gonky is on the moon.
That's right. Like what I've done with the place.
So if Gonky freezes, per the
Let's
banner,
not make any jokes. I mean,
no, we
poor
can't now.
guy is
We're
living in
vintage
a
Gonky.
trailer.
Yeah, we're
come
vintage
on, dude.
Gonky. Vintage Gonky.
No,
And then we've got
no.
Vintage Wombat. Buy his books. They help support him.
It's the only
His
thing that
endeavors.
supports me here.
Or
Or swag, too. You could buy swag.
You can buy a shirt now. We've got shirts for sale. So if you want to do that. There's also a Luna Cam, but she's not available right now for comment. She left. She wandered off. So this show should be great. Wombat, how are you?
Should be.
Should be great.
Just kidding.
How's
I'm
it
doing
going?
great. It's fine.
Live.
Ask a
Gonky
question. Why is the intro 2 minutes long? And then you have an intro on top of that.
gives people
that
time to
too
show
long?
up. It's the
We like
pre-intro.
intros,
It's
dude.
2 minutes.
Oh.
It's a countdown timer to go live.
Okay.
Amateur.
No, I get it's countdown timer. I get
Countdown
distracted
timer.
when I sit here for 2 minutes.
Well, that's
like-
kind of it's an Air Force thing. You know, you talk about the weather 3-4 times. We like to have a quick
The
intro.
Is
time
it-
hack.
Is
Yeah,
it
the time
similar to
hack.
the Air Force thing where he constantly messages me if I'm showing up, even though I said I'll be
15 prior. What time is the 15-minute check-in?
not
It's
hear me?
15 prior, not 5 minutes prior, not 7 minutes prior.
There's not
15
15
minutes
prior. If you want me here 15
It's
minutes
15
prior, then
I
tell me
told
to be
you,
here
we
15.
have told, no, how many?
That's not true.
Donkey, have
You
we
have
not
never
told this
told me
man
that.
to be here 15
not.
minutes prior?
No, you just complain when I'm
All
not.
right,
Usually
listen,
30
we've got
to
Pull the
40.
tapes. Pull the tapes.
Pull the tapes.
You have
I
never.
want to look.
No.
Somebody's already donated to Gonky's internet. DL says line 1 of the F-35 ejections he bolt faced clearly states to turn on the transponder prior to touching the ejection handle.
That's because he ejected.
I don't
but-
know about all that.
Mm.
But we do have more F-35 stuff. So let's get into our topics because why not? Gonky, you haven't heard this, right? This is all new to you.
No,
So when
correct.
the Fat Amy driver jumped out, he wandered over to somebody's house and called 911. And people have asked, why would you do that? Because it's a security violation to have a cell phone in that jet.
I was going to say, yeah. I'm like,
Really?
Yeah.
I guarantee you he's not
Dude,
carrying a
I'm-
cell phone.
Pretty sure, unless you're a deputy group commander taking selfies, in which case it's fine. You make 06 and then do your retirement
Well,
flight. A
But
couple
unless
years
it's
later.
in one of those, what are those bags, those Faraday bags or whatever?
Well,
But then,
yeah.
but then he may not have had it. Like if it was in a helmet bag, like I could see that.
His phone's probably or it fell out of his G suit pocket. I don't know, but only certain people can take
Wow.
selfies in fifth gen fighters and get away with it. But
Not me.
Mhm.
us.
Never flown one. Never.
But
will.
here's the 911 call. I want your reaction because reactions are what sells. Let us begin.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
Can you hear that?
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
I guess we got a pilot at our house, and he says he got ejected. So he ejected from the plane. So we just see if we could get some.
You can hear that guy in the background going, no, I ejected. I didn't get ejected. I ejected.
It's all part of the conspiracy.
Ambulance, please.
I'm sorry, what happened?
We got a pilot in the house, and I guess he landed in my backyard, and we were trying to see if we could get a ambulance to the house, please.
Okay, so like, how, okay, what is the phone number that you're calling from? Okay, we're getting off on the way. Give me just a moment.
Yeah, no problem.
She did not expect that phone call when she showed up to work.
No.
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 Okay, are you with the patient now?
Yes.
Okay, how old is the patient?
We have a military jet crash. I'm the pilot. We need to get rescue rolling. I'm not sure where the airplane is. It would have crash landed somewhere. I ejected.
Okay, how
Ma'am.
far did he fall?
All the
I was
way.
at 2,000 feet.
Okay, and what caused the fall?
They don't have a thing for this. That's the problem.
Aircraft
There's
failure.
no script of like, oh, okay, hold on. Let me pull out the F-35 random
Okay, is there any
ejection
serious bleeding?
911 call. Like, doesn't
I don't know. I can't see myself.
No, you look fine.
Oh, you look fine, man.
What did the other person say?
Careful where you parachute into in the backwoods.
I feel okay. My back just hurts.
Oh, getting that VA disability.
Okay.
It's on the tapes, man. That's
Has there
100.
been a
it's on-
report of an airplane crash?
I
Is it
have
still
not
flying?
seen any come up yet.
Still flying.
Okay, what part of the body was injured?
All of it.
All
Ma'am,
All of it.
I'm a pilot in a military aircraft, and I ejected. So I just rode a parachute down to the ground.
This guy's 1,000% Marine.
Can you please send an ambulance?
Yes, sir.
Knife
I've already
hand.
told you they're
The
on their
knife
way.
hand
I'm
is
just required to
straight.
ask these questions while they're en route.
Okay. Well, thank you, NBC, for that.
Oh,
Gonky, your thoughts.
that was kind of painful, dude. That was kind
Well,
of painful.
okay.
It was for him.
All right. So I have the unique ability to talk to this because I'm in the first responder business sometimes. And I've seen the craziest stuff. We have what's called a computer-aided dispatch, right? And so dispatcher takes a call. They have a dedicated 911 operator. They take the call. They input everything. And then it goes to the dispatcher who dispatches this out. They hear some crazy stuff on a normal basis. Like, hey, the FBI is breaking into my attic and stealing my Wi-Fi. That's a real thing, by the way. I went to a call like that.
Maybe that's
That is his problem. But I'm just like people, like we had one that was, the guy was popping off rounds because he thought the goblins and ghouls were getting him outside of a school. That locked down the school. That was a big thing. You get these kind of things. So when a dispatcher hears, hey, I ejected from my F-35, in a place that doesn't normally have F-35 traffic, more than likely, she's probably like, do what now? How do I even code
I doesn't
this?
even know what an F-35 is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
Say
know who
again
she
now?
was. Yeah. So she's going through her little checklist, and the checklist is like, okay, what do we classify? Oh, that's a fall. Okay. So from what altitude? 2,000 feet. Boy, that had to hurt.
Yeah, that's a big
That was, ooh.
that is-
Ooh. And meanwhile, this guy, he imagine that, right? You land in this guy's backyard and you're like, hey, sir, can I borrow a phone? How about you just call 911, actually?
Well,
I don't know
and
the
can I
number.
bring something up on that? Because I've been getting a lot of text messages about like, why would they call why would the pilot call 911 and not the squadron? And I go, a couple things. One, I don't think the pilot's the one who made that phone call. I think it's the homeowner who's like, WTF, I got this guy who's parachuting
I think he told
in
him
my
to.
backyard.
Yeah. I think he told
may
him, hey,
have.
call 911.
He may have. Number two, and be honest with me, and Mover, your answer doesn't count because you're better. Gonky, be honest.
Okay.
If I took away your Razor flip phone back when you were flying Hornets, would you have the Squadron SDO phone number memorized? Honestly. No. There's no chance.
No.
So,
No.
I mean, but it's funny because people have been texting me like crazy or messaging me like, why would he call not the squadron? There's protocol. I'm like, dude, homeboy just got punched out of an aircraft. His brain is completely scrambled and he's in the backwoods somewhere. Like
he had the wherewithal to go, hey, I ejected. It didn't eject me.
That's probably just a Marine thing because it's a control thing. But
Dude,
but you could almost see over the conversation that his mind is coming back. Right? Like he's getting his wherewithal. He's like, okay, wait, but could you imagine whether he initiated the ejection or not is irrelevant. Like, dude, you're going to be scrambled. I mean, we have a mutual friend that punched out of a Raptor and I've talked to him very vividly about his story. And there's large parts of it that he's like, I don't remember. And then like, superimpose that on not a metropolis that you're landing in where you can get your bearings. I mean, I thought about that when I almost punched out a Meridian. I'm like, I'm gonna be hanging from some tree with the crocodiles and alligators snapping at my feet in the backwoods of Mississippi. Like this sucks.
Dude, what if he had him at gunpoint? Like, what if the first interaction was like, who are you?
No idea. So the point being
whoa. Easy. Hey.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of parts of this country where if somebody that comes in a military uniform up your back steps, like you're going to be met with a
dude. This was
Go ahead.
If I was this
Gonky,
guy,
I
would have. If I was this dude, I would have found the first diner and walked in and tried to just recreate the Maverick
missed
scene.
opportunity, and then said, "Where am I?"
Missed opportunity.
Wearing the helmet. He could have been wearing the Fat
Yes.
Amy helmet. He'd look like he was from Mars.
Because it looks
He'd have
crazy.
looked,
Yes.
dude. Yeah, that's a good
Yes.
point,
He
Gonky. You've
could have walked
10 out of
in
10. He
and be like,
gets
dude.
shot in that diner. 10 out of 10. I'm sorry.
well,
We would
especially
not
with
be
all
talking
the
about
aliens
based on-
recently. Well, I mean, Top
like
Gun
one
Maverick
Gun
was
him
before.
down by the register. 10 out of 10
Yeah.
in that area. So
I'd be like,
you
somebody
know,
please
Gonky.
ask me where am I from? Huh?
So 2,000 feet instrument approach, radar environment. This was another article. I talked about it on the Mover Mailbag. I think I was by myself on this one. Wombat, were you on that one or the one before that?
no, it's the one I tried to log into.
Oh, yeah, you broke my internet.
Sorry. I asked first. So.
StreamYard's still trying to figure out what happened now. But that one, there was an article that said it was some quote unquote expert, right? And he comes out and he says, well, he didn't have time to turn on his tracking beacon or tracking device or whatever. And it's like, no, he was squawking because he was already in the radar environment, and he had other failures more than likely. So it's very likely that failed too. It's not like, hey, we're flying around invisible mode. Oh, turn it back on. No, that's not.
Mode.
Yeah.
That's
It's like
so
that commercial
Flocky,
Gonky has
man.
played. It's invisible. You can't see it.
Yeah,
But,
Single point failure, dude.
exactly.
One lightning
Well,
strike, done.
dude, you don't want to speculate.
Lightning isn't it impervious to lightning? Lightning can't strike.
No,
lightning.
we're not
Allegedly.
speculating. Although I will
Yeah,
say
no speculation.
the Mover Mental Health Minute last week. I mean,
You
it
don't
makes
know.
sense.
I mean, you don't. I mean,
You don't
it's
It's mental health.
now isn't again because I don't sit and live and breathe airplanes like you guys do, but like, there's no HUD in an F-35, correct?
There's a helmet.
It's just the helmet, right? So this was a comment I made years ago where I'm like, hold on a second, you're gonna have a jet fighter with no HUD
Hold up.
and just
wait
a
a minute.
helmet, and it's like, oh yeah, well the helmet will never break, and I'm like, to my friends who have flown with the helmet, has it ever failed? And they're like, mm-hmm. So I mean, this could very well be, and I'm not like whatever,
Nope.
it'll come out, we'll talk about it, but I mean, it could be something that simple where like the helmet went bad and he's out of there and the plane's perfectly fine. I mean, this is
There's a
where
lot of stuff happening.
redundancies in these type of aircraft are critical, in my opinion, especially combat aircraft, because I mean, there's so many things on Fat Amy that I'm like, oh, really? You're going to put that in the saltwater environment of a ship, and it's going to be, it could
Well, let's
never
just-
fail.
Let's talk about the fact that he's flying a Marine version that is VTOL.
Well, I mean, that's just
I mean, the
My
whole
hat
reason
goes off
all
to
the other
everyone.
variants have the problems that they have. VTOL.
yes.
Well, I mean, the plane just kept flying, so his decision
Quite
was
a while.
probably wrong. I'm just
It
kidding.
would have been awesome if it VTOL'd its way into a field.
Remember, it just
And
lands.
landed.
Yeah.
You're refueled. Like, I'm still fighting. I don't know where
Yeah.
that guy went. Gonky, I was telling this
But-
story. Oh, there we go. Cool. He's out. I
No,
can't
I'm here.
remember. I can't remember if it was before or after we were students in Kingsville, or we were, or I was an instructor in Kingsville. But there was a T-45, or maybe it was an A4, or maybe it's just folklore, where like the nosewheel steering got wonky on landing, and like the pilot does the like aborted. No, I'm not. Oh no, and I'm out. And he just punches. The plane took back off and flew to like South Texas before it crashed. Like, and I remember them talking about that in LSO school because it's trimmed up. Like, you know, so all these people are like, how could it possibly fly without a pilot? I'm like, hell, it flies better without us half the time with these types of aircraft.
That's less weight.
So-
The plane has now decided it would rather have the extra gas.
Exactly. Like it understands the benefits.
It's the hierarchy, right?
go
We would
versus
like to
pilot.
have the extra gas, and then it gets rid of us, and it would like to have
Well,
the extra
yes.
gas.
Well,
It
you've
was the
seen the
last
video
player.
of the Hornet. Wasn't the Hornet that got squirrely on landing and it turns sideways and the dude punches, but the ejection actually rights the plane and it sits there, and then you see the guy parachute in the HUD film. That's a pretty
yeah.
famous video
Yes.
too. Like, so people are
Yes.
like, yeah, dude, there was a Tomcat I remember where it was out of
Tomcat.
control. They punched, and the punch is actually
and it
it
straightened out.
broke the stall, and it kept. And I'm like, so this is totally understandable. That, you know, again, not
Well,
even knowing what
can-
was wrong.
Cornfield bomber. Cornfield bomber.
Can
Is
the
that
Marine version like auto vertical land?
I think
assume
it
so.
pretty much is auto vertical land. I
Has
don't
to,
think
yeah.
it's not.
Well,
I
then,
think it's
like,
like it's doing most of its own thing.
This is a dumb question. Since it's not a real airplane and it can take off vertically, like, why didn't you just couldn't you just hit the hey, land me like a helo vertical mode?
Because he probably wasn't in a
Because he
position.
had no idea if
He
he
didn't know
was
where it
upside
was.
down, right side up, left, right. Like,
But if it's
I mean-
auto, that's why I was asking if it.
but if the jet doesn't know
I
either,
get what you're saying.
Yeah,
like the jet needs to know where it is to know where it's not, to know where it's going.
true.
Right.
It's like the missile. The missile has to know. I mean, if it
Right. I get
if
it.
all of the information is gone, you're back to being a T-38 in a jet that has no T-38 capability.
True.
We'll wait for the AIB,
but it's
Gonky.
instruments. Yeah.
If you don't
I'm just
have
curious,
any
that's all.
instruments, if you have no instruments, how do you fly instruments?
Well, he took his instruments with him on ejection because they're all right here.
Anyway, moving on to the next topic. Thank you for that.
That was
Douglas, replacing
Yes,
the
sir.
A-10s with the Super Hornets.
Yeah, I've been browsing through this while you guys were talking, trying to come up with a summary of it. There's
Good
been-
luck.
Yeah, it's a long article. There's been some discussion, I think, for quite a while about retiring the A-10, and this is from the Drive, the War Zone at the Drive, making the case that the Super Hornet would be a good replacement for the A-10, partly due to the fact that we already have it, and they also talk about it's not really about the airplane; it's more about the skill set. That A-10 guys are forward. What's FAC-A
FAC-A,
stand for?
forward air controller, airborne.
Airborne
So
FAC.
Yeah.
this is forward air controllers that are in an airplane, and that's a really important skill set. And they could transfer them over to F-18s. He talks about the particular capabilities of the airplanes are pretty similar. The flight regime is similar. The A-10 guys are trained for a similar amount of Gs, so it's a pretty interesting article. It seems to make a pretty good case.
Look at that thing, man.
Hmm.
This?
No, the cockpit. Yeah, look
Yeah,
at
that cockpit, that's pretty wild.
that is amazing.
Yeah.
Is that the Block 3? Is that the thing that's in New Orleans
Yeah,
now
whatever
that doesn't want
Yeah.
mover?
That
The
looks like a
Kuwaiti-
sim.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's outside
Yeah.
looks like it's
Probably is
protected.
the sim.
It's got better visibility.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah, that's
Douglas.
pretty sweet. That's
That was it. That was my summary.
Okay, great. Good talk. Gonky, your
terrible
thoughts?
idea. Terrible idea.
What? Come
Yeah.
on.
Dude,
Can I
mean,
summarize
think
this whole
yes,
article?
Go ahead.
Let me summarize this
Sure.
article. It's going to cut the whole podcast short, though, because we won't have to talk about this for 25 minutes. The author is clearly married or dating to somebody who's a Super Hornet wizzo, and he wants to keep them employed. There's
He's
no
an
other reason.
A10 patch wearer. This guy was an A10 wick guy.
Gonky knows what I'm talking about. He's like,
Yeah.
I want to keep my husband or wife employed. We need to bring Super Hornets over here in the Foxtrot model to do FAC-A. Has to. It's the only way that we're going to survive as a fighting force in a country. Do it.
I say block 70.
There's some
Vipers.
validity.
Let's keep it single seat.
No, here's the problem. Neither the Viper or the Hornet can replace the A10. They're just too fast.
No. And they don't have the loiter time. They don't have the weapons.
Right.
They don't have the visibility.
Yes.
They don't have, and they
Don't
don't
have the
have,
gun.
and they don't have, and they don't have. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like it's the Hornet and the
Yeah.
Super Hornet by design are a jack of all trades, master of none. And
Yeah,
that is not what you need in
100%.
an A10 platform.
Nope.
I don't know why you're yelling
And,
at me
dude-
today. This is making me sad.
And they like
Plus, who will
The
give
thing
us
is,
a hard
is-
time about having a tiny gun if the A10's not here? Right?
It's A10's going
Well,
away
dude.
no matter what.
Well, then I think the
Well,
military should probably
they
think of
need-
a replacement.
right. Bingo, dude. Don't replace the A10 with a Hornet or a Viper because it can't do the job.
Well, here's the next question.
I mean,
do you
we
still
had-
need the job?
We don't know. That's the thing. We don't know. I'm assuming so.
I
but
mean, we needed the job in non-traditional ISR and the COIN counterinsurgency operations and low intensity conflict, but for the Ukraine, Taiwan battlefields of the world, heavily contested, degraded, denied environments, will it survive?
not initially.
Yes. Dude,
Yes,
but that's
it'll
just
survive?
it. It will, because everybody thinks day one is going to be day 300, 400. It doesn't end up that way. And you can't, like at some point there's going to be airspace where you can be safe in a non-freaking gazillion-dollar stealth airplane and still do the job. I mean, in Iraq, right? 91, that was some of the most heavily defended airspace in the world. And the A-10, once other specialized weapons did their job, the A-10, a specialized weapon, was allowed to go in there and just lay waste to the Iraqi military. And that's the point, man. How many jack of all trades do we have? F-35, Viper, Hornet, Strike Eagle. I mean, dude, like, it's like Wombat said, it's literally a jack of all trades. That air crew, and if the Air Force gets a Super Hornet, it's not going to be, this is the A-10 mission only. It's like, oh, it's got an AMRAAM. Oh, it's got all these other toys. Oh, look what I can do. Looky. No, dude. Like, the focus needs to be supporting the boots on. That's how you win the war. You put the 18-year-old with the machine gun on the other dude's real estate, period.
Yep.
The Super Hornet would have been, dude, the Super Hornet, like 1000%, the Marine Corps should never have bought the F-35, and they should absolutely have bought Super Hornet. That's my own opinion.
Agreed. I agree with you.
I'm pretty impressed
because you can do the FAC-A mission.
Well, you're smarter than you
the
look.
FAC-A mission, and the 2-seater, dude. Like I did FAC-A stuff with the Marines. I mean, they love that stuff, dude. Right? Because every Marine fighter pilot,
because they want to be, be close to them, right? Those are their boys and girls down there. Like, that's their mission.
Yeah, man.
Like, we're just trying to get back to the ship for a slider at Mid-Rats. That's our mission. So this is a horror.
The Rhino. The Rhino is absolutely the perfect Marine jet, and it is absolutely not an airplane that can replace the A-10, dude. I mean, I've been in theater and combat. When the A-10 shows up, the guys on the ground stop talking to you.
Yep. They're like, you can go cap. You go loiter and conserve.
What about the AC-130?
Yeah. That's a great
that
aircraft,
too. That happened to me as well.
Mission. It's. I mean, you need in the wars that we have fought recently, you need a plane that can get down and dirty, close to the troops on the ground. Will we need that in the future? I don't know.
That's the point. The wars we are looking to the next war, not the previous.
Well,
war.
And that's great, and that's why we promote these excellent leaders whose job is to not only be able to predict what aircraft we're going to need for the next war, because if they could do that, maybe they should just not have the next war. I mean, if they're that great. So that's the problem with this, is you're guessing. It's all a freaking guess. So just look at what's worked in the past, take new versions of that, and hope for the best. And the pilots in the box will be the ones that do the job.
The A-10.
Well, look at what's going on in Ukraine.
Yeah, but dude, the A-10 was designed for that war.
Frog, C-25.
Frogfoot, yeah.
Frog feet? What's the plural of a frog foot?
Frog
foot, like two frog foot? Frog foots?
I feel like we've digressed.
How about just two of them?
Anyway, a two-ship of those things.
No, that's the Russian A-10.
Right, that's what I'm saying. If you look to the war in Ukraine, you will see a picture of what a modern battlescape is, and guess what? It's not even the fencers and frog feet. It's cardboard drones, styrofoam drones. It's drones, man. Suicide drones, normal drones. It's all kind of little baby drones, FPV drones.
I'll ask you this: is either side fighting to win? Honestly,
I think they're fighting for money.
I don't think so.
100%. When was the last time you saw a war where either side fought to win? We haven't done that in my whole career.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so the views are our own and do not represent that of the Department of Defense. It does not imply or constitute any DoD endorsement. Please do not fire
100%
for what we said. Any reattacks on this before we move on to the next topic?
I still stand by the fact that
I think it's a bad idea.
That needs a job. That's who wrote this.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Douglas, do we have any things from the kids at home?
Let's take a look. Well, there's some support for the A10. I'm trying to get back to where we were.
There we go. Janitor's back. I got you. So
Janitor,
I thought
gotcha.
Mav walking into a diner after his bailout was ridiculous until real life happened. Yeah.
See,
In fact,
it could have
could've
added
been.
real
It could've-
validity.
What could have been? Thank you, Janitor. Trigger
be another.
says, and thank you. The dispatcher was like, wait, you had what happened? Yeah, they keep piling on to this poor girl. But come on. How many, like, that's not
doing her
in the
job.
field training.
Yeah.
He's doing her job.
You know, I'm telling you, if I were riding around as a fighter pilot and I saw it dispatch or heard it dispatched out or saw it on CAD, I'd be like, what? No, this is stupid. What is this? It's some idiot farmer, you know, crop duster crash. T-Bear's out there buzzing crop dusters and they think it's a F-35. Like, dude, some things are just so unique that it just defies, you know, any reason. And they're just in the moment. Yeah, authenticate Alpha Bravo.
Yeah.
Ethan says pilot shows up at house looking like Tom Cruise. He's about Tom Cruise's age.
Told you.
No, he's
No,
Missed
no,
opportunity.
he's not.
47.
Tom Cruise is way older in that film
Sorry.
than 47.
Franz
We
says,
double
talk about
that.
some on-the-job
Thanks, Franz.
training. Here you go, Gonky. Was reading an article on
Connor.
MQ-25 refueling drone and was curious what you guys think of it. I believe it could be advantageous in certain situations. Thank you guys for sharing your time every week. What do you think about getting that? As long as it stays on autopilot.
No, I
That's
can't
awesome.
think of anything that doesn't fly into the clouds and turns the autopilot off for training. So
Yeah, I mean,
you guys
Uh,
don't mind, do you?
I think it's awesome.
yes, I do mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. You
That's
guys
great.
are true-
Yeah, I think it's a
true
great
heroes.
idea, man. More gas.
It's the one thing a drone should be used for.
Nothing can replace the
I
bird.
agree, Aaron.
Yep.
We need to get Casmo on here. Compare close air sport. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks.
The Apache, the Viper, the Hornet, the F-15, A-10 is baseline. I think the Apache is going to give him a run for his money.
Yeah, the F-15's last. Period.
Yeah.
If the A-10's
Well,
a
the gray
baseline,
one?
I'd say the
Strike
Apache and then
Strike
the
Eagle. He's
16
probably
and
talking
18.
about the Strike Eagle, and you got two people in there, and one of them is doing other stuff.
Still last.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Garrett says the homeowner probably thought the pilot was an alien with fat Amy helmet and bad weather. Also, doesn't the F-35B have an auto recover feature?
I think
Like an auto GCAS, but
Maybe
more
it's
than likely.
disabled.
So somebody asked this question
Obviously,
too:
we
is
forgot to turn it on.
well, why didn't the alert fighters find it? And it's like they didn't have time. You know, 69 miles away is probably about 20 minutes at approach
Right.
speeds. 20, 30 minutes. So by the time you go,
Right.
hey, this guy just called 911. Where's that jet? I don't know where it is. Launch the alert fighters. Oh, okay. Go ahead. Make the call. Activate the phone tree. It's
Where's
been
he at?
35 minutes. Yeah, it's already done. It's
Some
over.
dude sitting alert like, what? I gotta go?
I'm going after what now?
Fine. Stupid.
Yeah.
I was almost
He's like,
off watch.
hold on. I want to play the game.
Yeah. Candy Crush. James says
Literally.
in the real world
Candy
documentary Independence Day, at the end, they call up all the old boys to fight the aliens. Would each of you sign up to be on President Whitmore's wing? And what are you flying into that fight? Hell yeah.
Of course.
After that speech
Yeah,
Come
that
on,
was
dude.
some of the
How
best
could you not
presenting
do
I've
that
seen in my life.
in
Like,
1995 at 13
yeah.
or 12. It was
Yes.
12 back then. Yeah.
I mean,
13
obviously, I'm gonna
came
go
out in
Hawkeye.
96.
Let's be honest. I mean, it's they
Didn't
all
the
died
Hawkeye die
anyways.
really early in that movie?
The Hawkeye was never in that movie.
No,
Oh,
it was the
E3. It was the
yeah,
E3.
it was the
that's
AWACS.
why.
Was
Yeah.
it the
I think it was
E3?
AWACS.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the
Mm.
Hawkeye died
Of
early.
course,
in,
James.
The
most,
B-2 shot a thing at it.
yeah.
Locked on.
Yeah, it didn't do
says.
anything.
No, it didn't.
Target
But yes, I
destroyed.
would. What are the highlights, lowlights? Oh boy, this will be all night. Of a fighter pilot's first 10 years in the Air
geez.
Force and Navy nowadays. Thank you. Got a big brain up there. Scano6839. Go, Gonky. Answer that question.
Oh, geez. Highs and lows of fight for first 10 years. Oh, my gosh, man. Well, the highs are obviously achieving all your goals, and then the lows could be a
Wings.
whole litany of things, man.
Wings.
Wings. That's,
Carrier qual.
yeah.
First time
Night
flying.
carrier
Wings,
qual.
yeah. Yeah. Qualifying in your airplane, combat qualifying in your airplane, earning the respect of your squadron mates.
First time you buzz an admiral.
There's a whole lot of There's a whole lot of things that could go bad. I mean, we could be here all night.
The lowlights when you never mind. Again, these
Leadership.
are,
No, yeah, this get us in trouble.
management,
Leader.
management,
People
management,
that outrank anybody above
Management.
03 in your first 10 years.
management.
Remember, those aren't
Yeah.
facts. Those are just merely.
Opinions that don't
Facts for
represent that of
me.
the DoD. Gonky got a big brain up there, but you know what? I'll always say, first 10 years, do it. After
Oh,
that,
hell
you're a
yeah.
free agent. So make up your mind,
Yeah.
but it's worth it for the first 10 years.
Yeah.
Connor says, super entertaining when you guys get passionate about a topic, yeller light. Thank you for that.
I think
All
once
right,
you
back-
retire, there is no
Yeah.
yellow or red light anymore, right? You just say whatever you want.
Don't they hate
Who
it?
cares?
I feel like they can
They,
always.
they got good wireless in prison.
Probably.
Uh,
Probably better than
Still
yours.
do the show from
Douglas,
behind bars.
you're up.
Yes, sir. So when did this happen? September 2022, a Russian
That's
Su-27 fired on an
Oh.
unarmed UK surveillance plane, and the incident was previously attributed to a technical malfunction, but later recordings of the communication said that he shot at him. His co-pilot tried to talk him out of it. So there you go.
Bad idea.
I love the title of this article because if you scroll up to that, like this is the epitome of clickbait. Russian pilot tries to shoot down British plane over Black Sea. Like, whoa, hold on a second. And then if you scroll a little bit more, it talks about a Royal Air Force surveillance plane. Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then you realize it's a drone and you realize nobody cares. Like immediately, you're like, oh, well, what? And then they even throw like the British rivet joint aircraft had sensors to intercept. And I'm like, wait, I had to go back and read, like, was it the rivet joint that got shot at? And I'm like, oh no, it's still a drone. And he missed and nobody cares. That's my side. You
Mover.
two talk amongst
What do you
yourselves.
What do you think, Mover?
Mover just took himself
Is he
out of
here?
the chat.
Doug, did you remove Mover?
I don't have him. No, I didn't. If I did, I did it by accident.
Yeah,
See
well,
if it comes back.
dude, I read this article. It the thing about it is, you're right, Wombat. It's clickbait, and they make it sound like, oh, these dumb Russians, they can't even get missiles to work and whatever. But have we ever accidentally almost shot down
Many times.
our own guys?
We've actually, many times.
Yeah, there was that
It's-
dude in the 80s in the Tomcat, right? He
Yeah,
actually
I
did
mean-
shoot down the Air Force F4. He actually did shoot him down.
So
You know?
it's crazy. It's just like,
So, I mean, it happened.
It happens. Like, I don't get it, man. Like
And-
the clickbait stuff really bugs me because it's like,
Yeah,
this is just the whole thing. Like we
it-
talk about when incidents come out and it's like, everybody wants to put their own point. And it's like, dude, everybody just wants likes. They just want that click. Nobody's authentic anymore. And
Yeah.
it's like, dude, that whole article, I'm
Well,
like,
it's
I
not-
just wasted my time reading a drone. We almost shot. We didn't even shoot down a drone. We almost shot down a drone.
Well, there's no real research or reporting. I mean,
Correct.
Doug, you read through that article. What did you think of that? What came to mind?
Well, this is the second time out of two articles that what I thought was very different from what Wombat thought. And as soon as Wombat told me what he thought, I was like, yeah, I should have caught that.
See, so clickbait works apparently.
I think
Yes.
that's exactly the take. It's like, wow, they really shot a British drone. Okay.
Yeah.
And then if you look at
Right.
the article,
Yeah.
the British said,
I
"We're
mean,
not
I'm
worried."
going to read it. Yeah, I'm going to read it. And then, of course, I read it and I was like, oh, I see the picture they're trying to paint here. But,
Mhm.
bottom line is I'm not saying, all I'm saying is we've done similar things and
Sure.
our weapons have had similar success and failure rates is what I'm saying. So don't rest easy thinking that potential adversaries like, say Russians or Chinese, dumb, you know what I'm saying? Don't rest on your laurels because we make the same mistakes is
Correct.
how I look at it. What do you think, Wombat? Valid?
No, 100%
Yeah.
valid. It's like anybody who will go on there and be like, this idiot couldn't even shoot down, blah, blah. And it's like, how many have you shot down? How many times have you been in that situation? Like, I feel bad for the pilot a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, not a ton, but a little. Like, put yourself in that shoes. Like, He's probably getting conflicting information. He's like, I got to do something. We're at war. Fire. His wingman's like, bro,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Knocking
Yeah.
out. I mean, dude, that's just the fog of war. And then he still doesn't hit the damn thing.
Well,
Like, that's the embarrassing
even-
part of all of it.
even during our time, there was a guy in a Hornet, and you had to pull the trigger to operate some of the features of the AT Fleer, and he was in air mode, and he pulled the trigger and fired a winder a lot, and that thing comes off. It's hunting for a target. Luckily, nobody
Was
he
in
didn't
front of
shoot
him.
down anybody, but
Well, and what about like how many times have you heard? And maybe we shouldn't talk about this, but again, I don't care. Like people dropping off target and stuff like that. I mean, for switchology errors. I mean, we had a crew throw a JDAM somewhere that they were like, like, and they're like, well, what were the GPS coordinates? They're like, it can't reach where they sent it. You know what I mean? And it's like, dude, this is part of this world that we're in. That's why bombing ranges are where they are, and that's why all this stuff is super safe. And it's like, but again, it goes back to the clickbait. The clickbait is what drives me absolutely bonkers on this, because it's false information. They're just trying to get you to get hooked in and to paint a narrative that does not match. And Doug, I'm not knocking you, dude. Like, it's 100%. 100% accurate. They did a great job at what their goal was, and it wasn't to report a damn thing. It was to get your attention and make you think the narrative they wanted to paint.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I'm the naive audience on this one.
So what do we do now? Do we just keep talking about this?
I can give you a mover update, and then we can move to the
let's do that.
Yeah, hey, give us an update on Mover.
Without him. Mover said, "Ruh-roh, computer froze. Keep going. We'll be back." So, there you go.
Well, let's talk about some of the people that are giving you their hard-earned money. What about that? Those are fun comments. That's
well, hey, do we have any super chats we can cover while he?
Was there an F-106 in 1970? Holy smoke, Corey, are you as old as me? Landed in Montana in a field.
Yep.
I would like to have an F-106.
That's right.
Well, there's one in Montana.
I think you can. Yeah, I think they have a picture of that online. Like if you Google that, I think I saw that. It's like, I think it's in the wintertime. It's just sitting there, like good to go.
We may have to return to the next one. If you can each sing your respective branch's song, I'll donate $5. $50. Okay, because he already donated $5. Mover can sing. I don't know if he will.
I'll tell you right now, since I see none of this money, I'm not involved in this at all. So you can make it $30 or $25.
There we go.
That's $20 is $20. Says
one
Gonky.
bar for $20. We'll see what Mover says.
Hey man, the place I work for. Whew.
I hear you. $20 is $20.
We got janitors back.
Janitor, thanks, man.
Fun.
Oh man, this is
may
awesome.
need more than that.
Yeah, no.
Like, here's the thing. I'm the weak link in this whole technology thing.
Apparently you're not, because you're doing just fine.
Well, maybe.
Here's my take on this, and I'm just going to say it to everybody listening. Gonky, you're clearly a better friend than I would be, because I'll tell you right now, with the amount of crap you have gotten for your internet, if Mover fell out, I would have stopped everything we were talking about and just relentlessly beat on him for not being able to run his own podcast. Like, I would not stop. I would just go until he came back, period. And you're just humble, dude. That's why people love Gonky. They're just like, no, it can happen to anybody.
Okay,
it's not his fault.
This is hey, Mover,
I hope you guys just
back.
continued without me.
Okay,
that
were you gone?
Did you leave? We're talking about a whole separate podcast now.
Dude, what the hell?
So
it not only
like
did it
after
freeze midstream, but then when it got back, it's like, hey, do you want to set up Windows for the first time? I'm like, for the first time? What do you mean for the first time?
So who's using Windows?
So Wombat, to answer your question, Wombat, about Wombat pummeling Mover right now about his technology.
Oh, and you're freezing. So don't even start with me. You're freezing right now. It's the Mover and
after
Gonky
the
show.
batter. After you've been gunning a guy for like 20 seconds, it's like, all right, let's just knock it off. I mean,
that's true.
Nothing
that's
left
true.
here to prove. So.
That's true. You're clubbing baby seals at this point. I hear you.
Yes. Yes.
That wouldn't have stopped me.
Ethan, hey,
I'm just saying.
He came back at the perfect time.
Well, hey,
did you guys finish talking about the Russian thing?
We did.
We're past it, dude. Covered.
Yeah,
We were
covered.
getting ready to
You
do
have to
Vipers in
sing the
Vietnam.
Air Force hymn for
Oh, yeah.
$25.
Off we go into the wild blue yonder. Fly high into the sun. Hey,
$20
Gonky,
is $20.
Actually, no, I love that.
did you tell him you're my boss now?
We didn't talk about that
Have you
yet.
made
I was
that
going to wait to
announcement
bring
yet?
that up.
I mean, I guess I am kind of your boss. So let's just pick this
In
up
the
where we
in the
left off.
wildest twist of fate. You know what's sad? The Lunacam's gone now. I can't get Lunacam's broken.
Oh no, we never even got to use it.
So
Never
can I
went in
just
here.
wait?
So,
I have to say this, and this is not, I'll say right now, Mover, you're in great shape. This is not what I mean by the comment I'm about to make. Okay. But when you told me that Gonky was going to be your boss, the only thing I could picture was at the end scene of Dodgeball, where it's like, you're not the boss of me. I'm the boss of me. I'm my own boss. Like, I made myself. Like,
it's
that was
more. No, it's more like Michael Scott, and it was my understanding that I would not be managed. And who gave you that idea, Michael? It was my understanding.
Maybe you could be the assistant
Yeah.
to Gonky.
Gonky is actually the assistant to the regional wing commander.
So you could be the
So
assistant.
he's
to
Dwight.
the assistant.
He's Dwight in this scenario, and I would be Jim.
Can we just
Well,
also
welcome-
take
hey,
a moment of
welcome back,
silence
Major.
for
Hey, we got more people since I left. Good job, guys.
Can we take a moment of silence for how Gonky's naval military career is like the cockroach of careers? Like, it just won't die, no matter what. Like, no matter what he does or does not do, somebody else is like, hey, bro, you seem nice. Here's another job. Like, we're sorry that you blew it all off for 2 years and nobody would ever still be in. But you know what?
Happy-go-lucky
Here you go.
Gonky. He's like a golden retriever, dude.
You're like a Lou Diamond Phillips of the modern day. So
Scratch my ears.
Definitely more of a
Mover,
golden
scratch my
retriever.
ears.
Aye, sir.
All
I'm just
right,
happy you're both
Mover.
employed.
Let's get this train back on the tracks.
I thought Wombat
No,
was
no
about to call
sir
me
sandwiches
fat.
while we're live.
No.
He was-
That's I wanted to make sure that was not my intent. But I did think that movie at the
Gotcha.
end. You know the scene I'm talking about, where you're like,
Oh yeah.
"It's not the
Okay.
boss of me.
With
I'm
all
the
due
boss."
respect, Douglas, what's next? Because I don't know where we're at now.
Well, we
Vipers to
can-
Vietnam.
We can do that.
Let's talk about the Vipers to Vietnam, please.
We always have the super chats if we really get in a jam.
Yeah. Thank you, people. By the way, BulgarianMilitary.com is our source. Go.
Yeah, from
Please don't
Boyko
freeze again.
Nikolov.
Oh, wow.
Vietnamese People's Air Force currently maintains a fleet of 10 Su-27. I wanted to read this because I was kind of amazed at how many airplanes they've got. 10 Su-27s, 35 Su-30s, and 34 Su-22s. Included in their inventory is a reserve MiG-21 and one fish bed. There's talk of them getting 16, perfect number, I think it was 16 F-16s. Indicating improved relations with Vietnam and also concerns about relationship between Vietnam and China.
Well, so I guess my question is, are we friends with Vietnam now, Gonky?
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Oh.
Well, Gonky's the co-host. I asked
Dude,
the questions. He's a smart man.
Plus, I'm half Vietnamese, right? So that automatically makes me an expert.
Which half?
Wombat, yellow light.
It's too easy.
No,
I can't let that one go. Come on, it's too easy.
Dude,
Somebody said his
I'll say
wombat.
this:
Ham.
the Vietnamese love Americans. I mean, I've been there, obviously. The Vietnamese love Americans, and
Do they?
I don't say yes, they
Now,
do. They do not
probably
like
do.
the French. They love Americans, dude.
Well, the French started the whole thing.
Yeah, the French enslaved them for like 100 years. So,
So
yeah, man,
they already have flankers, and they have. We'll talk about the Su-30. Hope you did your homework, Gonky. But they have that, and I love that they have the one MiG-21, which is awesome because
only needs one.
that's such a dude. That's Strike Fatron 204, where you have the one jet everybody shares. Hot pit, hot seat. It's just a squadron of 8 dudes that just fly the same jet around 1v0 all the time.
Keep riding
And
that
Probably
everyone
like
is
the
winner.
ultimate supreme commander's private plane is what it is. He's like, I'm just gonna have my own.
That thing would be
Screw around
terrible as a
plane.
private plane.
Oh.
No, thank you. But so I guess my question that I don't think the article really touched on, are they new Vipers, or is it like the Ukraine situation where they're just approving the transfer of Vipers to Vietnam.
I don't know, man. When I see stuff like this, I always wonder, because I saw it in Malaysia. You got a frontline Western jet and a frontline Russian jet, and the philosophies on how you employ them both is different. So, like, I always wonder about how do you actually get these two airplanes to work together in one fighting force. That's what I see when I see like Vietnam getting F-16s. Like, how do you, because they probably definitely have a Russian doctrine of employing all their Russian airplanes, and you get a Western fighter in there. It's just
But you get
I
that
could
with
see it in
the
Malaysia.
training, right? Yeah, but you get that when you buy the jet. That's why they hired you. So they buy the jet, and then they go to Tucson. They get trained up in the Viper tactics, all that stuff. I mean, it comes with a lot more than just airplanes usually.
Yeah, but then what you have is like, right, then Vietnam has like two air forces, the Su-30 Air Force and the F-16 Air Force. Well, guess what? You guys are on the same team. How do you work together? Or how do you meld the tactics? And like, I saw a little bit of that difficulty when I was in Malaysia, because I did missions with the MiG-29, and I had no idea what was going on. Like, what are you guys? Because of what was required to get the MiG-29 to the merge. I know all that. I know what you're saying and thinking.
Might not have been.
But you know what I'm saying? I mean,
that's all I'm saying. It's too easy. Don't throw wiffle balls at me tonight. I'm not in the mood for that. It's too easy.
But what I like Mover said, okay, you come to the US and train. We teach you the Western way to do it. And then you go back to your own country. It's like, well, these Su-30 guys went to Mother Russia and they learned their thing. How is this making our Air Force stronger? As like that's the way I look at it. So I think
the other.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Gonky. I'm sorry. A little delay there.
I just gotta say, I think it's wise to have, either all Western jets or all Russian jets.
But the other part to this too is going back to my original point. If they're brand new Block 70s, which I'm for, love that idea because it keeps the assembly line rolling. That assembly line is backed up. I mean, I think I read something they're producing like 4 a month, and it was so bad that the Taiwanese jets, the ones that like they're due right now, they're having an issue. So they're upgrading the current Vipers as a stopgap. They're like, okay, well, we realize we're a little bit behind, so here's upgrades for what you got until we can get the production. So if it's new jets, it's not going to be quick, but I am for it because guess what? It's American jobs. It's American jobs at the factory, flying FCFs, building in the great state of South Carolina. They might need somebody to test fly these jets, and I think it's great. However, if they're just transferring jets, then it's the same thing as anything else. It's like, okay, whatever.
I was kind of on board with what you were saying, Gonky, about having the different tactics, but to devil's advocate it, why would that be any different than the U.S. that has Air Force and Navy tactics that are different?
And they are different. I mean, that strengthens my point.
So I mean, but my point being is like we seem to make it work. So maybe they would take these two aircraft and use them completely separate roles, kind of how we do things. I'm just curious. Honestly, I don't have a dog in the fight.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care either way. It's just one way to look at it as to like, well, maybe that's if that was employed correctly, we kind of do the same thing. We just happen to make the planes across. But I mean, the stuff that you did in the Air Force is very different than what you did in the Navy. And things like that. So I don't know.
Flanker guys are the Cowboys, and the Viper guys are just out there briefing weather notems all day.
Right?
Total. That's reserve guard. TFI is reserve guard when you add a reserve thing to the total force integration.
Who's the boss?
I have to give him the information so he can be a smart boss.
There you go.
He can't. Yeah. Gonky needs.
If he's not filled with the information, he can't be an
Gonky's like the boss.
Leader.
He's the guy who runs Police Academy. He needs somebody to guide him around. Gonky's not. He's more of a figurehead, if you will. than an actual. Anyway, I
And very
digress.
well qualified for that, I might
You
add.
just quite like I, for one, welcome my new Gonky overlord. Douglas, do we have anything from the audience? It's great to be back, by the way. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we have quite a few.
All right, let's catch up.
This is where we
Stu.
are. Does the F-35 have a ground avoidance system? Could that be the reason why it flew 60
Apparently
miles? It
not.
was avoiding the ground. Does that also mean the pilot still had electronics? That would be cool. Sitting on the ground, FPV in your F-35.
I know it does
Roll
have an
right,
auto
roll
GCAS
right.
system, but I don't think in the landing environment it's active. I don't think it's.
Yeah,
I don't
because
think
wouldn't it never
know.
be able to land then?
Yeah, it's an infinite amount of flying.
I keep pushing
Actually,
this thing forward and it won't go down.
I could
Well,
actually
man.
see that being another just found out problem with
It's a
Fat
feature.
Amy is they
It's not a bug,
designed
it's
this
a feature. It's like plugging in the extension cord into the strip into back into the
Yeah,
extension cord,
correct.
so it's just the
Yes.
infinite power loop.
Yeah.
All the tankers, the F-35s are never going to land.
Yeah.
Did you know
Damn,
the
it's took
tic-tac
mover.
mover?
Probably it. Honestly, I was probably getting too close to the truth, so the Russians turned off my stream.
I'm glad they let you come back.
The truth is out there.
Gonky, I think this is in reference to when Gonky was talking about the Russians not being as incompetent.
Don't say
as
that
they
just
look.
because it says incompetence, Doug. That's rude.
No, it's the Russians. The Russians.
Oh, sorry, misread it. Clickbait.
Commandant Lassard, go ahead. Nobody in our audience knows who that is, by the way.
No, they
Google
don't.
it.
They're too young.
Go watch
I
it.
do.
Yeah, same. It's sad.
It's
virtual.
Janitor
Thanks,
was hoping.
Janitor,
Wait,
thanks,
what-
man.
did he have a good point? I mean, was that not always
Yeah.
estimate your enemies? Don't
Yeah.
underestimate them.
No, he's referring to a comment I made on the portion of the show mover where you had to take a potty break
Mm.
or had internet trouble.
Yeah.
That was not internet. That was
Oh,
whole PC
I
trouble.
lost
That
my
was
internet.
everything froze, and I'm like,
That's a good
oh my
point.
god, everything's frozen. The mouse went from like normal size to like 46-point font, and I knew that was a problem.
Yeah. Or you had to
Let
poop
me
and you
ask-
didn't have your helmet bag.
I
Let's
can't
be
poop that
honest.
fast.
No.
Let's be honest. There's no way
Mover.
I could have gotten back in that amount of time.
Mover.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry,
Well-
off the rails.
When we all froze, did you immediately think, "Oh, Gonky froze"?
No,
And then you're like, "Wait,
Yes,
no, because you know what? Douglas was still scrolling, so it stopped mid-scroll, and then the mouse pointer got huge, and I was like, "Boy, that's a bad sign." And then you always can tell when you hit the numbers lock key and that light stays on. You're like, "Boy, that's a really bad sign." But I could still hear myself talking, so I'm like, "Well, I like to hear that."
Yeah, you're like,
But,
so far everything's
Yeah,
checked.
I'm like, "Well, I mean, I'll have a show by myself," and the camera light was still
Mover,
on.
you know what, dude? This is if that F-35 had a cockpit voice recorder and could record that pilot's mind, what you just described is probably what he was thinking. He's like, "Wait,
Yeah, we figured out.
Tab
the
lock
extra-
button is still on. Holy
not
crap.
working."
Why is the
Yeah.
mouse so big? Like, that's not usually
I can't
there.
hear myself.
Like,
You want some more?
All right, sorry.
Yeah, let's get through them before so we can
Alrighty.
catch up before we don't.
Sorry.
Janitor wants pictures of me. I actually have
yeah.
a camera. We just don't use
Doug
it.
has been talking about an OnlyFans for his retirement years. We were talking about
Was
that
that what we
today.
were
weren't
talking
we,
about?
Douglas?
Okay. That
You said
clarifies
something about doing a channel. You didn't.
Yeah. That'll
I
be a
mean-
dead end. You guys reiterate night traps
Honor,
are being
thanks, man.
as being terrifying. You notice how quickly I moved on. Are there a
saw
few
that.
specific things you guys could point out that make it terrifying? Yeah, I'm interested in that one
the
too.
dark,
The dark.
along with the fact that your airport is moving, but mostly the
Yeah.
dark.
Well,
Like darker than dark.
yes,
Like,
everything Wombat said is true. But Connor, the thing that really gets you is the illusions. So your eyes and your ears are telling you, "Hey, I'm super steep," but you're not. And the
mhm.
LSOs aren't saying anything. So you keep it coming, even though you want to puke in your mask. And it's really hard to overcome that. And that's what makes it terrifying, because every fiber in your body is telling you you're super steep, you're super low, you're way off parameters, because we're visual creatures backed up by what our inner ears tell us. And that's what makes it terrifying, because you basically, sounds corny, you're confronting your fears and be like, no, I'm on and on. And
Trust your instruments.
that's
right? Oof.
instruments and LSO. So that's what makes it terrifying. In addition to what Wombat said, everything there is valid too.
Well, and dude,
Plus,
did
if
you
you
ever
come up
get the
short, you die.
Yeah, there's that. You have the rest of your life to figure out how to land an aircraft carrier every
Correct.
time you do it, which is dope.
Correct.
Did you ever get the sensation? So the thing I noticed in the Gulf, which I know you were out there probably the same time I was, is so for me, and not everybody's the same, but for me, the oil platforms that would blow off the gas, that made me feel upside down. For some reason in my brain, when I would see those, I was upside down. So like in my brain, I was seeing them blow down, and I'm like, oh. And then you'd look at your ADI or HUD and the Hornet, and you're like, that doesn't check out. I mean,
well,
hands down, like you just get really good at flying with vertigo. Like really good.
Yeah, that what you're talking about, those and also even other ships out there would mess with I perceived myself, my height above the water. Because it's pitch black and you see a light and all of a sudden you're like, is that a ship? Holy shit, is that the horizon? What altitude am I at? Right.
So the moon? Where am I? Why didn't I join the Air Force?
Yeah,
or at least fly CODs? So many mistakes were made. So many mistakes.
Yeah. Connor, what we just talked
horrible.
about, and the fact that you're it's not uncommon to be spatially D'd, at least at some point during the approach.
We've got a bunch of these. I'm going to keep rolling through them until
Keep
somebody
rolling.
calls me to stop. Off topic.
Thanks.
Nice donation
Dang.
from Maxime. Idea for the
thanks,
future
man.
fundraiser stream: DSCQ challenge, Gonky and Mover and F-18 versus Mooch and Nasty and Tomcats. Wombat as paddles and looks for the coveted OK 3-wire. Thank you for everything.
Let's
gentlemen.
make this
You are
happen.
Great.
The reason why Gonky's
Please
scared
make
right
those
now
little
is because he
contact
doesn't
guys.
want to land with me as a paddles. That's what
I don't think
I'll do
Gonky could land with anybody as a paddles in DCS.
some would argue in real life. But
I
only
don't
as
think I can
paddles.
land in DCS. Let's just keep it right there.
That's what I was saying. So here's my question to you guys, and I want my
I'd do it.
viewers
I would do it.
all
For $50 you would. Just kidding. Sorry.
different topic though. So I was trying to think of a way that the DCS flight sim community could be part of the recruiting for the Air Force. What would be a good way to interact and inspire the next generation using flight sims? Email me or do a comment or something, because I'm trying to workshop this, brainstorm this idea, because we're having such a recruiting crisis right now. How do you get people interested by showing them the job using DCS, Microsoft Flight Sim, whatever? I think there's a way, whether it's tournaments, whether it's something, but if you got an idea, let me know, because I will take credit for it. I'm just kidding. I don't have a career left anyway.
No,
so.
you'll give the credit to Gonky.
We'll
'cause that's
promote
what
it.
good support is.
Right. I will tell Gonky my idea and he will then
You will take
take credit. Yeah.
and get promoted.
But just let me know, because that's our next segment, actually. Next is
Is
Wombat
this an
Pam.
Archer
Thanks.
reference?
No, Pam from The Office.
Oh, okay.
He's
I
more
haven't seen The
Creed.
Office.
Thanks, Doug. Pam from Archer. Thanks, bro. Really?
Well, I mean, I was reaching.
Oh, it's cool. It's cool. Nice. Maybe I'll have an internet problem now, and you guys can enjoy the rest of your stupid podcast. How
She
about
had a
that?
real good arc there for a couple episodes.
Just for the record, mine was a full PC failure, not
Yeah,
not
okay.
an internet. Internet's still humming along. It's great.
We all have our night in the barrel, Wombat.
At least Wombat knows who Archer is. Here's the retirement fund or
Thanks,
internet
Tim.
fund if you wish. And I love Wombat's mood lighting.
How about Gonky's mood lighting? Does he not look like he's in space?
I thought he looked like he was at a lodge somewhere.
Has nothing to do with his background either.
Look, no, I am at Valley Design and Manufacturing's headquarters. So they were nice enough to let me
Hate
use
to
this
say that.
office.
Yeah, is this part of the non-sponsored product placement?
I'm not. No.
I thought it was a
Never
community
mind. They
room
may
at a
be at the
campground.
Thanksgiving table this year, but no.
Yeah. All right, next. Thanks, Tim.
This is referencing
Justin,
the
thanks.
Vietnamese F-16s. They're a pawn of the Chinese if this was basic weapons, but with BRICS being stronger than ever, I don't see the new and improved relations with Vietnam lasting long. Also, Mover, your $20 for that sad attempt.
What was the sad attempt?
Singing.
You're
Oh,
singing.
of course.
He
So
hasn't heard
I
me
guess
sing yet.
but I thought the whole point was to make Vietnam stronger against China. We're building a coalition of the willing, and also building more F-16s out of South Carolina, which is important.
Because you'll need pilots to
Because you'll
FCF
need
them.
pilots to fly them
Good
once a
pilots.
week.
Pilots that have a lot of experience.
Average,
I mean,
slightly above, slightly below average pilots who may or may not have flown
diverse
F-16s.
backgrounded pilots.
Yeah.
That,
well, Justin has a point. I mean, they share a border. I mean, and China is definitely more bigger than Vietnam. Not sure how
Same.
16 F-16s would. Yeah, you got a point, Justin. I can see that.
probably about 16 seconds
Same
would be my
theme,
guess.
referencing the same article. Janitor is back. Janitor is back. He never left. He's very consistent. So who will
Thanks,
have more
Janitor.
Vipers, Vietnam or top aces? Mover, are you muted? You're muted, Mover.
Am I? Damn it.
Yep.
This is
probably
not
top
your
aces.
night, bro.
No,
This
dude,
is
we're
not-
just
gotta
having
go
a
hit the
complete
tanker again.
meltdown.
We could get into one of those PIOs again where I click you on and you click you back off again. We do that about 8 times.
Yeah. All right. We got
See
the
some
next one.
retraining.
When
Yeah,
training
we're
other
gonna have to-
nations and Western
Gonky's-
fighters,
Ever
do they
since
also get
Gonky's became my boss, it's been a downhill struggle for
uphill
me.
all day?
Sorry,
Do
go
they
ahead.
also get trained in BVR tactics? If so, wouldn't that allow for Western tactics to leak?
I think they're very specific in what they like. Very.
Yeah, Aaron, it depends. Yeah, it depends. No, I mean, there's obviously, there's stuff that we do, and there's stuff that other
Well,
people
there's some
do, and
level
they have their.
of things that are shared and some things that are not.
Yep.
That's a bit. I mean,
Yep.
it just depends.
I knew the answer to this for at least one of you. Did any of you get to participate in a stadium event / flyover? I'm going to give Connor a shout out for being a consistent fan too. If not, what would have been your dream flyover?
I did a whole video on this.
You did. What was that your first flyover? What was your first flyover?
Oh God, yeah, I forgot about
Mine?
that flyover. My first flyover was 2009. Back when NASCAR used to do the final race, so where they crowned the champion at Homestead Motor Speedway. It was pre-deployment, so we were about to go to the desert, and so we had a family weekend. So they got to fly in our parents. So my dad came out and got to watch me do a NASCAR flyover for the first time.
That's awesome.
At Homestead, and then I eventually led that flyover like a year later as the flight lead. And I've done IndyCar. I've talked about the most embarrassing one where I was supposed to meet the hot country singer, and my wingman broke. So it was a single ship flyby and afterburner, which does not look
Tim
cool
McGraw.
at all.
That's what we all knew. It was Tim
It was
McGraw.
Kenny Chesney.
You wish. You
Toby.
wish.
Toby Keith out there talking about the
You
good
wish.
old US of A.
You wish.
And I've done videos on this. Gonky, you were
Yeah,
a
what was your
airship
first
pilot.
flyover?
You did a whole bunch.
No, the coolest flyover I think I've done Wombat U with a ground. You were the ground guy with the ground mic. Remember
I
we
was.
did a flyover for
I was
the
a
Lemoore
JTAC,
High School.
untrained and unafraid.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Lemoore High
I
was
still have
their,
pictures
I
of
think
that,
it was
yeah.
their opening game.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I thought it was so cool to do the freaking a high school football team got a flyover 2 Super Hornets, and I was the lead. Wombat was the like you said, the ground guy who did responsible for all the timing, and my wife was there. And what surprised me was when I landed. Apparently, my skipper was
We're
there.
all
Like a whole bunch
surprised
of like important.
you land.
I
There
like,
was,
wow,
dude.
there's
The
a lot of
Commodore
people
of
there.
the wing was there because I was working for the
I was
Commodore.
like,
He
good
was
thing
there.
Yeah,
Didn't screw
I
it
was
up.
like, good thing.
The
we didn't try
comment
to
out of
spice it up.
them after you guys went over, and I quote from the Commodore of the Lemoore wing was, "Good thing you didn't screw it up." And I was like, couldn't agree more, sir. We're all shocked, but
Sir.
hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So
that was the cool-
what was your
that
first one?
was
Do you remember your
my
first flyover?
I can't do it. I don't know, dude. I've done quite a few. I can't remember. That one stood out to me though, because it was.
What about the
about
one where
you?
the certain Blue Falcon oversped the travel pod?
Who was that?
Yeah, the NASCAR race, that was fun. I mean, that was a good time too.
That was a fun.
Was this
weekend.
in T-38s?
Yeah.
Yeah, those pods.
a certain,
So my first one was actually as a student in Kingsville. Impromptu on an
245?
RI flight. Yep.
how do you
Solo
impromptu a flyover?
because we were going up to College Station with one of the reservists, and he found out I went to A&M, and he literally, I'm not making this story up. This is unbelievable, and all of us would have been fired if this happened in current times. We're flying. He put me in the front. Perfect. He put me in the front. He was in the back for an RI flight, right? So just cross country. And we were going to go up to College Station to get some free birds. And he's like, hey, I'm going to be off the radios for a minute. You got the radios. And we're down low. And I'm like, what the hell? And he's back there. He has like an earbud in. And he's talking on his cell phone from the jet. We're like 2,000 feet. And he's like, all right, man. Kyle Field's off the nose at 1 o'clock. You're cleared in as fast as it'll go. They're singing the anthem now. And I was like, what the heck are you talking about? He's like, don't suck. And that was it. And a single 245 over Kyle Field during the national anthem. We landed. They brought us over 50-yard line, everything, and free birds. I had no idea what was going on. It was awesome. It was super cool. It was the dumbest thing ever.
That's awesome.
You would be fired immediately right now. By the way, fun fact, that guy, Hawkeye pilot. Just saying. What does that mean? Hawkeye pilots don't care about their career. That's the bottom line. They're begging to be grounded. Is basically the bottom line. They'll do anything they can to not get back in the Hawkeye. That's essentially the summary of that.
Check.
That was my first.
Any self-respecting
Cool.
cop knows who
Somebody
Commandant Lassard
understood
is.
your reference.
Oh yeah, he's a cop. He's a self-respecting cop. It says so right in his
There you go.
avatar.
If you don't like, yeah, gosh, 80s comedy is just awesome.
I know.
Harold, thanks.
Harold, where do we get him, Gonky?
Can you remind us
you
where to
can't
get? You got to
read
read it, Douglas, in case there's a.
Can you remind us where to
podcast
get
listener.
Gonky's book? They're the only ones I haven't read yet.
Well, you don't
Well, you
read two
can't
of
read
them.
it, Harold, unfortunately.
You read
Well,
one of them. They're just letters.
They're for kids. So they're coloring books and how to write the
Marines.
alphabet. Yeah, it's a
That
book
doesn't
for
mean
Marines
Harold
is
doesn't
the-
need this. Harold may be interested in that. Tell him where to get it. Amazon.
Amazon. Yeah.
I looked them up the other night.
Under what is it?
Yep.
TK Hartsock?
K Hartsock. Yeah. I got more stuff coming out, but I'm not as talented. So
Oh boy, Brian's in the bathtub. Dude.
Brian's in the bathtub watching this podcast, and he has to ask,
Nice.
"Are
Prove
bathrooms
it.
a thing when deployed anywhere, or is it showers only?"
I don't know. I mean, it depends if you're deploying in the military or at dorm rooms, right, Mover?
Dude,
You guys
that
had bathtubs.
You almost had that joke. If you'd have said if you were deploying in the military or the Air Force, I'd have given you credit for that. But
Dorm rooms.
you missed it right at the end. It was so close to being a good
You
joke.
call them dorms.
You were so close.
They're
You're
called
right
dorms.
there.
Weren't they
and
called
then you
dorms
lost it at
advanced?
the end. You didn't follow through with it.
but Mover,
I'll give you no points.
do y'all have bathtubs? Do you guys have bathtubs?
He's trying to
No,
deflect from
we
the
had
real.
we had a Cadillac with Steve who cleaned it, who was indigenous personnel, and it was shower shoes and shower. I mean, it was same as
Okay.
minus.
Same as it.
We didn't have like a barrel and all the stuff that you Navy guys had, but we
Oh, I'm
had.
sorry. Your showers got cleaned.
Yeah, they got cleaned and they had shower curtains, so you didn't have to see the next dude next to you.
Well, la di freaking da to
We
you.
did.
Yeah, well, not that there's anything wrong with that.
Say that like it's a good thing. If Gonky is the captain in Police Academy, would Wombat be Bobcat Goldthwait? Yeah, I know who Bobcat Goldthwait is. I think that works.
100%.
Oh, dude, I'm gonna have to watch all the police academies again.
And anything with
6 was
Bobcat.
my favorite.
I recently
watch them all again.
started flying lessons in Cessna 150. Did any of y'all start with that? And was
Yes.
it any use at all for learning how to fly jets?
Yeah, because you learn how to fly.
Yeah.
Learning how to fly is step one in
100%.
the flying the jets because the jets fly themselves. So you have to learn how to fly. I'm going to John Madden this. In order to fly, you need to learn how to fly. And I flew a Cessna 152 with my 6'3", 230-pound instructor. We never did weight and balance, but I'm pretty sure we were always over.
Apparently not if
Always.
you flew.
You had to
Well, I
slide
think it's
over
more
the
getting
bar.
taller.
Idling.
Yeah.
My
he
instructor
wasn't
was
6'3".
6'3". Which, Gonky,
Oh,
Douglas, you're my witness. Did I not show the anthropometric data
Oh my
that
gosh.
proved?
Granted, it was a few years out of date. Some of us may have shrunk.
Yeah, keep pulling those 9Gs, bro. You ain't 6'2" anymore.
That was post 9Gs.
That was
So
only
I was even
7 years
taller
ago.
before the 9Gs. Anyway, yes, we did, and it was useful
Yeah.
because you need to learn how to fly.
I like this. Aaron said, I've put a few friends in the back
Franz.
seat of DCS train aircraft and done some BFM, some free flying and DCS with them. You guys could fly 2-seaters and have civvies in the back seat. I flew
That'd be
back
cool.
seat with Mover in the Tomcat, and there really was
Tomcats.
it was notable that I was flying with a real pilot at a couple of different points.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Is there a 2-seat Viper module out there,
We'll
or a
get Wags
2-seat
on
Hornet?
that. We'll have to get Wags on
Yeah.
that.
Hey, Wags
Well, they
is
do have
busy
an
making a new air boss. You let him focus on that.
Apparently, they're coming in with a PC-9, which is going to be a T6. So if you could have that, you can
Sure.
kind of show some basic Air Force stuff. I'm just thinking of ways to get people excited about this. You know,
Yeah.
show them the job a little bit. Maybe do tournaments and stuff. Just get them excited about doing this for real. But Wombat, how is that going in your acting career?
It's going. So people tag me on Twitter all the time, and he said, "Yeah, it's in production. They're doing all the whatever stuff that they have to do."
Nice.
That's awesome,
Yeah,
dude.
so I'll be the air boss.
That's
Which
awesome.
Nice.
just remember, air boss
Yes.
outranks paddles. Let's keep that clear.
Rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock. No. All right. So moving on, just real quick. I texted a friend of mine today and said, "Hey, is there anything you want us to push to help out the recruiting thing?" And he wrote the new Mill Recruiter, which the link is in the chat now. It'll be in the description when I finish. That's also right there at the bottom of the screen. Mill Recruiter is getting a fair amount of attention. We've had 40,000 hits since it launched in August. We even started interviewing command-sponsored applicants this week. We are getting a lot higher quality of candidates than expected. Next board, listen, is on the 11th of October. It is not too late to sign up for the next board. So go to that website, millrecruiter.com, AFREC UFT, and sign up. Put your stuff in, make them tell you no. And he said he would be willing to be on the show at some point to answer questions. So I think that'll be awesome. Next week we have, well, I'm not going to say it yet because we're not confirmed, but next week we're going to talk about engineering stuff. Hopefully.
Nice.
I hate to say. Oh, speaking of Shanghai, he's doing better. He's back in the game. Should see him soon. So hopefully. All right, back to the next topic. We got threat brief. Sue 30. There you go.
Do I have a part in this one, or do I just put up the image?
I think, well, you have to if you're the one that puts up the image.
There we
A
go.
lot of wings on it.
It's a 2-seat multi-role fighter version of the Su-27, and then a whole bunch of really detailed information about it.
Mm-hmm.
Scary.
Mm-hmm.
We
Does
actually
it
have
have
to read
thrust
this stuff,
vectoring?
Douglas. If you just scroll through, it doesn't.
Does it have thrust
I'm
vectoring?
sorry, what are you saying to me, Mover?
I'm saying you have to present
Yes.
it. Otherwise,
Ah,
It
okay.
does.
the people.
How much of it do you want?
This is not a visual only. I'll do it. I got it. I got it. Well,
We didn't brief this.
Well, it doesn't matter.
We
It's
didn't brief the
camouflage.
threat
You can't
brief.
see it.
I got it right here. So we're talking about the Su-30 today. It's made in Russia. It's been around since the 90s. It's got two. It says 2 men. I don't know about all that,
I don't like that at
but
all.
it's got 2 Saturn engines.
Two
They've
crew
got
persons.
a whole bunch of thrusties with afterburner, 3,000 commie units of range. It's got 150 rounds in the 30 mic camera, carries pretty much everything you'd ever want, and then it also can drop bombs. It's a derivative of the Su-27, but obviously this is where we get into the nuts and bolts here. So the export version is the MK, is the improved export version. Then you've got the MKI, which is India, the MKM, which Gonky's going to talk about here in a second, the MKA, the MKK, the MK2 is an improved export version. So the MKK would be for China, MK2 would be the improved export version, and then Venezuela, the MKV. Some may have written stories about that, not me. And then China said, you know what? We're going to make the J16. They say it's not a direct derivative, but it's very similar in form and function. It's an advanced version of the J11 which is the version of the Su-27. So you can see, real big airplane, high alpha capability. It's got Gonky. Did it have an ESA in the? Because the MKM, when they exported it, they didn't have avionics, right? It's like, here you go. We're not going to give you all the cool stuff.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't think so.
Yeah, Gonky,
That
you've fought this guy. What's your assessment of the Su-30?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's huge. Yeah, it's a multi-role fighter. I've done BVR, so long range, and then dogfighting. And my impression is very comparable to like Hornet, Super Hornet kind of stuff. Our 4th gen, basically. It's very comparable to our 4th gen. BVR, it gets up really high and really fast. Within visual range, even though it's massive. So like, even, you guys who play DC, if you set up for like a mile of beam set, you kind of have the eyeball count. Like if it's another Hornet, if you're constantly fighting a Hornet, you look at it, you're like, it's about a mile. Well, that's what I did. I was like, that's good. And I was like a mile off because the airplane's substantially larger than a F-18. So despite being a much larger airplane, it actually has a better slow speed game than the Hornet. So it's a tough airplane to fight when it has a good pilot. If you're better than the guy in the Su-30, at least in a Hornet, you're going to beat him. The airplane isn't magic, but it is very good. I mean,
did it really say
that's the airplane in
150
a nutshell.
rounds of bullets?
Yeah, 30
That's
millimeter.
not a lot.
30 millimeter though, right?
Yeah, but still.
That's a solid squeeze.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care if they're 50 millimeter. If I miss with the first squeeze, it does no good. So 150 rounds is not a lot. That's all I'm saying. It's obviously
I can't
not
remember the rate of fire.
I don't plane. That's a good point. It could be a short, long rate of fire too. That's all.
Well, the thing with all the Russian planes, they have a really good helmet heater combo that you guys know about. So, anytime you're getting gunned, you could probably be getting
you're probably long
shot,
dead.
So. Yeah. The Su-30 is, I mean, I said in the video I made about fighting them. Everybody always says, everybody's wowed by the airplane in air shows. And everybody says, oh, that's useless in BFM, but it's not, because every time I lost to the Su-30 is because they were able to use the thrust vectoring. And from what I saw, when they are using the thrust vectoring, they can't do it at like 400 knots, right? So we have to be in a slow speed fight. And when they use it, it's an energy excursion, just like in a Hornet. And as you guys all know, you do a massive energy excursion in a Hornet, you bleed all your energy, and then you start falling out of the sky. So the pilot has to know when and how to use it. And if they do, it is, I mean, how many times do you guys wish you had a little more alpha?
It's 360 thrust vectoring, like the nozzles. How do those work?
They're canted.
Oh, I like this plane a lot better already.
What is it? What are you wrestling? What is
like they're like like Raptor is like this, right? Straight
what
up
are we
and down.
doing here? You're like a teenager in the 90s here.
I'm adjusting the water. No, they're at an angle. They're at an angle.
Well, if anybody has questions on what the hell Gonky just meant, feel free to enter the chat, because all of us
I have questions. I'm really don't know, but thank you, Gonky. Appreciate the.
How about the thrust vectoring? It goes like this. Oh, okay. Well, and more braking.
The nozzles.
It goes like this and then like this. Gonky.
Is there anywhere in the
You're
description?
describing puberty is what this was.
Is there anything in the description of this podcast that refers to Gonky as an expert? Because that needs to be taken out right now.
No, you know what though? But we're just gonna throw this one up there. That's my new.
Oh,
That's
goodness.
my new one.
My goodness.
For all right, let's move on to the voice messages because
Oh,
again,
these are always fun.
show is off the rails and it's probably not.
I don't think it was
coming back
ever on
anytime
it.
soon. We've had a losing night, is what we've had. Okay, this first one comes from. I'll be honest, I don't know.
Did you
Okay.
listen to it
I'm
before you
over
hit
on Gonky
play?
and possibly guest. I hope you guys are doing well. Just got a quick question for you tonight. What was it like flying fighters for the first time? The first time you ever went solo, taxied out, took off, hitting the burners for the first time. What were your initial impressions of the jet? And then what did it feel like to have that feeling that, man, I'm a fighter pilot for the first time? Love the show. Thank you guys for your service and looking forward to more episodes. Thanks.
All right, so I don't know about you guys, but the F-16, the first time I flew, because the first time you fly the F-16 is cool, just in general, because you're like, hey, I'm sitting up a little bit higher than I was in the T-38. You've got more systems, all that stuff, but you've been in the sim. But the first time you go to a single seat jet and you're so used to looking to your right and seeing another seat, but the first time you go to that thing, you're like, this is it. And unlike the Hornet, there's nothing back there. There's no little space or anything like that. Like the Viper ends and it's just the rest of the jet. So canopy, you check it. That's it. There's no more jet. And you get in that jet and you're like, dude, this is an Iron Man suit. I'm now wearing this airplane. There's nobody else. It's just me. I sit down, canopy. Oh, I've got this extra room. And then you light the blower and you're like, holy crap, I'm flying F-16 by myself, with my flight lead. He's up there. I'm back here. I'm alone and unafraid. And I don't know that there is a more memorable time in your career, like we talked about earlier, than the first time that you are single seat. Because you, up to this point, at least for me, you'd flown the T6, which you solo. You go solo. It's fine. But it's not the same. You fly the T-38. You go solo, but it's not the same. But you sit in a jet that's designed for one fighter pilot. And it's just a weapon system now. Like flying's not the problem anymore. Now it's about how do I go employ this weapon system? And it is, I don't know. I think it's a cool feeling. I think it's awesome to go to look back and be like, oh, that's the wing now. Because in the Viper, unlimited visibility, you see there, you see behind you. It's just awesome. And then by the time I got to the Hornet, it was just like, okay, I can't wait to get to the single seat version because I don't like having this guy back here. Fellers.
Gonky.
Yeah, that's a good question because I remember my first flight in the Hornet. Obviously, I was dual. But Mover, you're bringing up a good point. I remember because on the flight line there was two-seaters, T-birds, and there were single-seaters, and I could not wait to fly with the single-seaters. And I remember very clearly because as a student, you can fly one of the two-seaters. They just safe up the seat. But it never, I'd look behind, you got the mirrors. I look behind me. I'd be like, this thing's a family model. It's like driving dad's minivan.
Yep.
And I remember, man, getting in the single-seat jet. And I remember closing the canopy thinking like, this is it. Like everyone on the base just sees me. Like there's no denying that like this ain't no trainer that like it's just me. Like I could be the best fighter pilot in the world. I got my mask on, no one could tell. And yeah, man, I remember my first time in a single seat jet going up. And it's strange you say that because you can actually see better behind you in the single seat jet. And I'm thinking I can see completely behind the tails. Like this is awesome. Yep. And that was a special time, man. And it's kind of like there's something weird about putting on a machine that is designed for just you. It's almost like it's custom made just for you. And I'm not saying the two-seater, I got a lot of time in both. And, now that I'm past the, initial wow factor, they both feel the same. But as a young man, like trying to get to, I want to be a single seat fighter pilot. That was very special. And, it getting a new pair of shoes. I'm like, I swear this thing goes faster. It turns better than the two-seat jet, right? So it was a special time, man. I definitely remember my first single seat, and I can't tell you how far in the syllabus I was, but I know it wasn't like right away because I flew a lot of 2-seat jets. I was like, but yeah, it's awesome. I mean,
I think it's
20 years old,
six rides in the Viper. I think it's maybe 5. Like you go there, you do maybe 5 or 6 rides, and then they chase you after that. And you don't. The next time you only fly. Yeah. It's not many.
3 or 4 in the Hornet.
It's not many. And then after that, maybe it is. Maybe it is. It's not many, but after that they chase you, and so your IP is on your wing. So, Wombat,
dude, you can cancel.
There's no chasing in the Navy.
I don't care. I'm gonna say it because while you guys are talking, I'm trying to think of my way to say this politely. It took me 7 years of being a commissioned officer to get my first solo Hornet ride. I was almost 30 when I did it. And up until that point in my life, the coolest thing I'd ever done was sex. And I was wrong after my first solo. Period. I was like, I thought that was the pinnacle of everything. And I was wrong before I even lifted off the ground. So,
dude, there's just something about walking up to a jet that you're used to seeing with 2 seats, and you're used to walking with your IP, and you're like, there's no seat there. It's not even, hey, the seat's empty or it's secured. There's nothing. It just, I miss
something awesome about man machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no denying I'm going to this jet by myself. I am in charge right now, at least of my airplane. And then you learn you're not in charge because you
don't have it. You're totally
other airplanes that you're trying to not hit or all this stuff. And
very quickly did you peak at that point of your invincibility, and then you realize I could die. This is kind of scary. Like, holy crap! Like, what am I doing? There's nobody to back me up anymore. Like.
But then you started looking forward to flying the family model because that meant you were flying somebody else, and it was usually an incentive ride or a fam flyer, and you're like, I like that. I like sharing this awesome jet with somebody else.
I
can imagine that'd be fun.
Like I said,
I did in T-45s, and
after the wow factor. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
After the wow factor, they were both awesome.
Yeah. All right. Next, we got 3 of them, so here we go.
Oh, wow. Hey guys, your biggest Dutch fan, BC here. Around 30 years ago, at around age 15, my childhood dream to become a fighter pilot got shot down after I got diagnosed with colorblindness after an Ishihara test. The Netherlands had about 200 Vipers back then, and after the fall of the Berlin Wall and basically the end of the Cold War, the Dutch view of having a big air force changed. Because of this, they could afford to be super picky, I guess, about who could or could not get in. My question is if colorblindness ever was an obstacle to become a fighter pilot in the US as well, and what would be the biggest problem in a jet for people who are green, red, colorblind, if any at all. Thanks again for your insights. I apologize for all my weekly voice messages, but your podcast really is my weekly present. Best regards, BC.
First of all, never apologize for
thanks, man. Yeah,
voice messages.
Thanks, man.
We appreciate them. Yeah, dude. I mean, obviously, a lot of people did not pass the colorblind or the color vision test in the Air Force and went to the Navy because different standards at the time. I don't think they're different now, but
I was going to say they're different. I didn't realize
they were, yeah, because it was always easier on the color vision for the Navy. But I mean, dude, the displays are green in the Hornet.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking immediately. I'm like, green, red, colorblind. Like, dude.
That's the whole
good as that F-35 pilot with no instruments. I mean, you're done. Right?
Why do I see nothing?
Yeah. Totally.
Turn it on. Yeah. But I don't know. Gonky, what do you think?
No, color it's important, man. Because when especially the modern stuff, right? They color code things for targeting and what different colors mean different things. And like coming aboard the ship, the ball has different colors that are kind of important.
Night vision.
Even just operating around.
Does it, Gonky? I thought you only saw a red ball. Always.
See red.
It's supposed to be red, right? Sorry, it's too easy.
Yeah.
So
No,
that would
but
be
I mean,
bad if
like,
you were red,
unfortunately,
green,
color.
colorblind, obviously.
Yeah, you wouldn't see it. I mean, the color thing is important. I mean, I'm sorry that it didn't work out for you, but
Yeah,
I
it's a
mean,
bummer.
if they tried to push it through, it'd be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for that, BC. Last one. Here
Thanks,
we
man.
go.
Hey, Mover and Gonky. This is Greg calling in from the San Francisco Bay Area. Anyway, want to know the funniest thing or the scariest thing that's happened to you, either as an officer or as a pilot. And also want to point out that the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy is a 4-year institution. They graduate officers into all the service branches. And I'm a graduate, and 2 of my roommates are pilots with airlines. They both went in the Navy, but
cool.
I know they also send folks into the Air Force and to the Air National Guard. Anyway, take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Yeah, merchant marines are legit, man, because you can get your license. So if you want to talk about like a fallback plan,
Can you be like a
great
riverboat
shot.
captain?
Yes,
Dude, those
correct.
guys make bank.
Lots of money. I know. I
Oh
dated
my
a girl
God.
whose dad was one.
But
Sweet
you have to be
Jesus.
related. Yeah, but you have to be like
Yes,
in the family.
correct.
It's not just anybody can go do it.
Sweet mother of God. The amount of money that man had was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Oh, I know.
And I
Yeah,
totally
I know a guy.
punted that relationship away like a smart idiot.
I know a guy that's got a Bell 407 that does that.
Yeah, I
You know,
believe
the
it.
$2 million
Wow.
helicopter.
Dude, Gonky,
Wow.
it's like it is money. Even current world I'm living in today, it's money that I have never seen before or again in my life.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
But hey,
Good.
so he asked a question, which I'm hoping one day somebody says, first time caller, long time listener, because then that means
now
we've
everybody's
arrived.
gonna do
Oh yeah,
that.
everybody's got to say that now. Gonky, your funniest and scariest. We've talked about scary a lot, but what's the funniest?
Well,
Story hard to tell.
to be completely honest, I can't.
Yeah, it's hard to
can't
when
tell
you
the
get put on the
funniest-
spot like
I
this.
I can't tell
You
the
can't-
funniest story because we get this is the wrong chant. Like we get
Hold on. Yeah, no, for legal
you
reasons.
can't. There's no banner.
There's no
Yeah,
banner.
I mean,
Is yours like
The-
a flying story or is yours like a port call story?
Yeah,
What do you
are
think?
we talking about, Gonky?
Well,
I got a
imagine-
port call story that
just-
is pretty funny that I could tell, but
well,
whatever.
I mean, that's what he asked. He's like, "What's as an officer, right?" I think that's what he said.
Sure.
Let's just stick to flying. We like airplanes. Do you have a funny airplane story?
I mean, I don't think it's funny. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I've got a ton of them, dude. I mean, I don't know what. So my first, I don't know. This one's pretty funny, I guess. So my first trip in the T-45, and if they didn't have tape in my helmet, I could show you. But basically, very first landing was on the Lincoln, and Wombat, our buddy from Vance who went Helos was playing guard. I can't remember. I think it was Paul that was out there.
Man, so
And,
you were like, I am
around the
not going
carrier-
to drink because I know his ability as a pilot. And that's not. No, I'm just kidding. He is not going to be able to find me.
So around the boat, you're all up one free tower, right? So CQ, I'm a student, never landed on a ship before. So I trap. It's kind of a scary, center ball, and then I let it fall out the bottom. Wombat has seen it 1,000
Standard
times.
donkey pass.
I crash into the ace. I mean, I'm scared to death. I go straight to military power, and if on the T-45, it's a thumb switch for the comm. And as I trap, I come full forward and I key the mic. And I mean, it's kind of like my whole body, like I'm standing on the rudder pedals. I'm tensed up. I'm holding the mic, and my head flies forward and hits the UFC. And just like a girl, I just scream, "Oh shit! Oh F!" And I come up and I do about 4 super heavy breaths. And then I kind of I see my director and I'm like, okay, back in the game. Well, I taxi up to the the 6-pack there, and all my buddies are like, they're like dying. But I'm thinking it's like, yeah, yeah. No idea. So I shut down. And I walked downstairs, and the LSOs are just dying. They come up to me, and they're just like, "Oh shit!" Oh. And I'm like, hand to my face, and like literally, like the whole day. It didn't last long because the weather rolled in. So like literally, there was like 6 traps. Mine was, one of them. So, and then we rode the boat back to port. So the whole time it was like, ever. And then I get to within cell phone reception, and I get my buddy. My buddy who was playing guard was like, "Dude, was that you screaming like a girl?" I was like, "I'm done." So I don't know. I've had a lot of funny stories, but my first trap on the ship on a T-45 was pretty. I definitely wasn't tough guy. Yeah, that's it.
Funny. It's not. You're not the first nor last person to hot mic themselves. Trust me, I heard plenty on the LSO platform. That it's my favorite was a Marine. It was hilarious. It tops your story as far as dumb things you could say over hot mic, but yeah, it's funny.
Wombat, what was your funny story?
My Marine story, or do you want my port call story?
Your port. Are you going to get us canceled?
Remember, we got kids. We got kids listening.
Yeah, remember there's children watching at this hour.
Well, it goes to call signs, and I think call signs are an important part of the military. And this guy earned his call sign this night because he was a little bit of an oddball in my E2 squadron, and I felt bad for him. Like he just didn't fit in. He wasn't your stereotypical naval aviator, if you catch my drift. And when we first met, it was in Point Magoo, and I had on a Harley Davidson shirt, because I had remember the Fat Boy that I got after in Kingsville, right? So so he was like, "Oh, you got a Harley?" I'm like, I got a Harley. I'm like, "Oh, sweet, man. That's awesome. We should go ride." I was just a new guy in the squadron, right? I was like, "What do you got?" He's like, "Sportster." I was like, "Okay, well, we could still go ride. That'd be cool." And I go, "Yeah, it's really nice around here, PCH." And he's like, "Oh, well, it's not with me. My mom's holding on to it." And I was like, and I kind of thought that was odd, I was like, well, he just moved, maybe. Well, fast forward, we're on deployment. I still kind of feel bad for the guy. He's single. So we're out. I think we were in Hong Kong, and we were trying to just, there's expats there. There's all sorts of people when you go out, right? You remember? So like, we're trying to, hook him up a little bit and help him out, and at the time, all of us were married. So like, what else are you going to do? Right. So we're just egging this guy on, and there was this girl who was really into him. And I was like, "Dude, whatever you do not dance. Whatever you do, like, just, if she wants to dance, don't dance. Like, just stay cool, be cool." I'm like, "Just be cool, dude. Like, she just seems like a really nice girl." Well, anyway, he goes and starts dancing and did pretty good, but then he started air guitaring to a Bon Jovi song. And then she left very quickly after that. And, so we go back to the admin. Like, he had gotten back before me. The admin is the giant room that all the officers stay in together, if people don't know. And I'm just going to go to sleep. And I walk into one of the bedrooms, and I don't realize he's in there, and he's on the phone. And like, I don't want to interrupt. So like, I'm trying to back out of the room. But before I back out of the room, it's super dark. I can hear him talking like, "Yeah, I just miss hanging out with you. And just, our times like on the beach and just being together." And I'm like, holy crap, this guy's got a girlfriend. I don't even know. I'm trying to hook him up. Like, now I feel bad. So I'm really trying to back out of this room. Right. And he's like, "I miss our talks." And I bump into the dresser as I'm backing out. So he hears me, and he's like, he sits up in bed, and he sees who I am. And he's like, "Wombat." He's like, "Hey man, how you doing?" And he realizes he's on the phone. He's like, "Do you want to talk to my mom?" And I was just like, oh. So like, that story, this is my integrity, because I don't want anything else. That story dies with me because I'm the only person in that room. It's dead. I will never bring it up again. But you remember the tradition in the Navy, right? You get back off port call. Everybody talks about their stories. Call signs get made, right? Some squadrons had awards for the dumbest thing you did. I'm just sitting there in the ready room, just hanging out while guys are doing this. And one of our mutual friends is like, "Anybody else have any people to nominate for this award?" We had like this little Buddha Jake that you would give to the dumbest thing that happened in port. And this dude looks at me and he goes, I got a story about Wombat. And I'm like, okay. And he talked about how I was like half dancing on like the street corner waiting for the cab to come pick us up. And everybody erupts because I would never do anything out of part, right? And I'll never forget it. Like he sits down, they're like, Wombat's getting it, because they always wanted to give me this boot of Jake. And I looked at him and I was like, I have a story. And you could see like his drunk brain registered, like, and caught up to where he was. And he's like, oh no. And he's like, I want to take my story back. I'm like, it's too late, bro. And I went up there and told the long version of what I've just told the world. And that dude's call sign stuck from that point on, period. And he was notoriously going to be holding on to that boot of Jake. So that's the fun part of what happens.
Oh, dude, I miss port calls, man. I got stories like that too.
Yeah, that was a tame one, but that was the light version. But
dude, it's the things that you do when you're stuck on a ship for long periods of time, and then they release you. It's like getting out of prison.
Yeah.
Sorry, mover.
Yeah,
sure. I don't really. I've been trying to think of funny stories. I mean, we told the story when I got lost at Balad, and they had to send the truck to come get me. That
Did you have
was
your
pretty.
PT belt on?
No, I was.
You're not selling
it.
it.
I was. Have you not heard the story, Wombat?
I may have. Yeah, I was going to say right now the Navy's winning on the old recruiting, my friend. You need to come up with some funny.
Well, funny stories. I'm like trying to think. Everything's either traumatic or there's nothing. It's not
Stop
funny.
talking, mover. You're
Like,
not selling it.
Well,
like,
I don't know if I'm the
Air Force Reserve. Cross that off.
I feel like I should phone.
But the beer was cold and the golf courses were nice, right? Hey, we're back.
I need to call T-Bear for.
Bathtub was great.
Yeah.
The bathtub.
I was trying to think, Gonky, on our
Easy
Finney
stuff.
flight, didn't we have a funny thing at Tyndall? Something happened, didn't you? We were out to the point and how with the rejoin. Yeah, I was trying to think of what happened there. The Finney flight. I think I've tried to forget that too much, but I'm going to pass. Because I don't have any.
We'll come back, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, well, I'll think this one over. I was blindsided. What's your scariest? Have you talked any scary stories?
No, dude, that's all I talk about.
Well, all the night traps, every single one of them could be scary.
My whole career is a damn scary story. So,
I made a video about my my almost midair. That's probably my scariest.
Yeah, we've already talked about the scariest stuff. So,
yeah.
All right, Douglas, what do you got for the people at home?
We've got Airborne Phantom. Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. I recently discovered that I'm a slow learner and quite forgetful. Would it be fair of me to assume that military flying probably isn't for me? Thanks a lot.
Marines fly.
False. False.
Somebody.
Man, I'm a slow learner, and
Gonky flies. I mean,
yeah, I was gonna say Gonky's the boss of everybody now. Look at him. It's basically an 07.
Gonky's the assistant to the regional wing commander, and he flies, or used to.
Yeah. So.
All right.
You can be a slow learner.
No,
Make 'em tell you
be a
no.
slow learner. Yeah, don't disqualify yourself.
Yeah, don't self-eliminate.
Yep.
Don't call yourself these things. Oh,
Aaron sent a voice message saying this as well, but I appreciate all you guys do. I always watch the show usually just later due to work.
Thanks, Aaron.
He's a VOD
Thanks, man.
watcher.
We're watching you on live and being able to support. Thanks.
Wombat from Cluterus. Did you gotta say it just to see Gonky's face is frozen. Did you ever feel any anxiety, or did you feel different flying in an E2 knowing the lives of others in the plane were dependent on your skill as a pilot?
That's a good question. There's definitely, in my opinion, a different feeling, especially I could speak to carrier aviation when you have crew members on board and no ejection seats. When I was flying the Hornet, there was very much that mentality of like, nah, I don't want to, but I can always give it back to the taxpayers and punch out. Hawkeye's a different animal, and this was something we dealt with every day. It was something that when you were working up to aircraft commander, they taught you about. There may be that time when you had to hold the plane level as the aircraft commander and let everybody jump out. You may or may not make it. So I wouldn't necessarily call it anxiety. It did. It happened to one of my friends who did Well, he didn't make it, but he did a great job holding that plane and saved 4 lives. So I don't know if anxiety is the right word, but it was definitely a different feeling. And I'll also tell you there was a different level of pride because we had at least one guy in our squadron that people wouldn't fly with. The NFOs refused to because for good reason. I didn't really like flying with them either. And the only reason I did is because I also had controls. So that made me feel safer, but there's no way in hell I would have sat in the back. So I took a lot of pride in the fact that I never had everybody wanted to fly with me. They felt safe with me no matter what, probably because I had crap break all the time and I always came back. So I had a track record of dealing with the wonderfulness of the Hawkeye and being able to be lucky enough to get back. But there definitely is, it's different pride, but it needs to be there because that's your whole mission is bringing those guys back. So
Wombat is the Hawkeye. Remember, I think the Growler was like a national asset, right? It was the
Hawkeye
was the E2. Yeah. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because of the cost of it and then the amount of people
Right.
and the cost of the training and all that. Yeah. It's national asset.
Gonky, you're a national asset.
That's a fact.
Well, I mean,
not from like a value standpoint, just because you're nice.
Like a golden retriever. Next.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Doug, you're muted. It's easier if you're.
I don't know. I was talking really well too.
I said so many good words. Damn
All
it.
the words were excellent.
This night is a disaster.
We're the best ever.
Everybody has to
Time
get in one mistake tonight. As a paramedic, I ran a call similar to the F-35 crash. The dispatcher called about a possible military helicopter crash. It turned out to be an AH-1 Cobra hard landing the aircrew ambulance in a Jeep.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
It would be surprising. I mean, it's not something you see every day. Thank you.
$5 is $5 from Harold. Thanks for the book pointers. My kids will love them. Looking forward to more Spectre, Shepard, Kruger, Rattler, sci-fi if it's in the cards.
Yeah, the sci-fi novel.
Thanks,
thank you. Is it's humming along, man. We're at chapter 43 now. I think it's 70,000 thousand words. So I'm hoping to have it done. Yeah, it's Gonky will never read it. Gonky, have you read any of my books?
Only the
awkward.
parts where
that's
I'm
awkward. Wow. Spoken like a true
You read
fighter
one
pilot.
chapter in. Geez. All right, next.
Gonky left me a nice review on Amazon for my book, which now hurts my feelings because clearly he didn't read it. So
Gonky's a liar. That's all we know.
Skino 6830.
Oh no, I read Wombat's books.
Oh,
we're still doing that. Wow.
We
just saw an Air Force pilot dropping Growler after UPT. Any insider experience into exchanges like these? Do they just go to B course or for an Air Force after?
Yeah,
really.
So the Whidbey has the Air Force
UPT?
exchange. Yeah, there's a whole Air Force squadron of the Whidbey where they fly the Growler. Dude, go fly.
But right out of UPT, so. I thought that was an exchange tour.
UPT would be
not the Growler because the Growler has Air Force squadron. So it's different than the exchange where they go. There's an actual go fly a real fighter. Just don't get all creative. Just go fly a real fighter. Just go fly a real fighter. That's what I'll say. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying.
Oh no, I'd go fly the Growler right now in my life. That'd be awesome. You got somebody to videotape you the whole time.
I'm talking about pilot training. Like if your options are like the Eagle, Strike Eagle, Viper, Raptor, F-35, don't get creative. Just go fly the F-35 or F-16 or whatever. Don't do all that.
That's valid.
That's something you do later.
Yeah. Okay.
When you need Instagram clicks.
Mover's funny story is making fun of Gonky's internet when his Compact 720 computer crashes.
It's not far off.
I think that was from the NVIDIA driver update. I think the 4090 had a little hiccup, my guess. But I don't know.
Hey man, Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
None of those
I-
words,
I'll- you know, we'll
none of
talk-
those words made any sense to Gonky. So
No, me neither. That helps. Know what the heck
Douglas
you're
knows.
We'll
talking
talk
about.
afterwards,
Douglas knows.
Mover.
I used to.
I'll be
compact
debriefed
stock at
appropriately.
one point. Roderick says, I would have gotten fired if I messed up Mover's internet. For the record, I did not mess up Mover's internet. Of course, I've never made a mistake. I also live where folk used to literally club baby seals, Wombat.
Nice.
His currency's Canadian.
Correct.
Not talking about U.S. seals. You know, that was really a thing. It was in National Geographic.
It's also
Was
a Dos
it?
Gringos song.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it?
like clubbing baby seals.
I'm going to have to listen to that one.
Hmm.
And this will catch us up.
Thank you, though.
Max the viewer, I have one question for the carrier guys on a case 3 wave off or a bolter. How do you go about that?
Eject.
You climb forward up to pattern altitude, try to pull the seat cushion out of your flight suit bottoms, turn downwind, get vectored around, and you get to do the whole thing all over again.
Turn down for what?
Yes. One very important thing. Barrel out hold.
Oh yeah, dude. So let's wrap your brain around that for a second. How do you? I want reaction from Gonky, right? So you've done plenty of bolters, from what I've heard, or wave offs. So your case
No, I
three-
haven't. I haven't, but continue.
I know. I've never boltered in a Hornet, ironically, ever. I have 0 bolters. Now the Hawkeye, different story. But picture this. So you just boltered, wave off, whatever, you get airborne again, right? Off the cat, whatever. And you turn downwind and you're sitting next to your buddy and you've been flying the whole time. And now you get to swap seats. And then
Oh,
you
no.
get to fly.
Nope.
Can't land from the other seat.
No, I just don't think I
Siri
could mentally
really
shift
liked that
gears.
question.
Too many people.
Sorry. But think about that. Like, dude, we a lot of
Yeah.
times didn't even have altitude hold. Like, you don't talk about
Yeah,
vertigo.
no,
man. Trap cat traps. That's dumb. Like on levels I can't even describe.
Well, Max,
Yeah.
the thing is like, okay, if you bolted or waved off because you just scare the crap out of yourself, that's one thing. If you got like a foul deck wave off, or if it was a nice pass and the hook skip, like, never happened to me, right? Then you were okay. But you know, if it was you were all out of sorts and you got some screaming power calls and wave off lights, it made for a long lap around the pattern.
Yep. Did you ever have your night in the barrel?
No, I had my day in the barrel.
Oh. That's a bold strategy. We don't
that was the
usually
day
see
I-
that in naval aviation.
I could see perfectly fine, actually. No, I broke them. I've broken the main landing gear on a Hornet, so I had to get towed out of the landing area. So I guess technically I've crashed an airplane. So that was my day in the
Every
barrel.
landing's a little bit of a crash. Don't worry about it.
This one was bad.
Awesome.
Thanks, Max.
Must have been the pitching deck in the Sea State.
Yes.
And yeah.
Sea snakes.
Ugh.
Cluterus is back and says, "Tell us your Code Brown stories." I feel like
I've never
we've told
had that
all of these.
problem. I've never had that problem.
I've never
flown
had that
with
problem,
that.
and I had pee all the time, so I carry like tons of pee bags. But
Yeah.
Is this just not a euphemism for a time that you were scared?
No,
Or
I
does he
thought
really
it's
mean
crap
poop
in the
story?
airplane. Is that not? I assume that's what he meant.
Oh,
I thought that was a
I-
physiological.
No, I assumed it was a euphemism.
I thought it was a euphemism.
Yeah.
No.
I thought he really
Smaller
wanted
words,
to know when we were
gents.
scared. Yeah.
If you can't spell it,
He
don't
doesn't,
use it.
he
I'll
doesn't
tell.
mean
Look,
literally.
one of my last flights in the Hornet, I came close.
This is literally.
Yeah, literally. So
I know
remember
the
the hot
story.
wings at the Gedunk, dude, at the Strike
Yeah.
Patron 204. Boy,
Yeah.
we were doing live at the airplane, and for whatever reason I was in a hurry or whatever, so you don't get your pre-departure routine down, and we got to the Kayla, which is the live ordnance. I was like, boy, stomach kind of okay. And we get in, and it was with Borat, and Borat taxis out, and then I'm like, okay, it'll be fine. I can get through this. It's no problem. Just go to the range, drop our bombs, come back. By the time done and done. And I had some kind of problem. And I'm like, okay, well, no, I'm going to get out, go back. And they fixed it. So Borat had already taxied to hold short. And as they fix it, he has a problem and now has to come back. And he's like, why don't you wait for me? And I'm like, I don't think I can wait for you. And so we swap and I go sit and wait for him. And I'm sitting here going, oh, I need a taxi back. I can't. Nope, I cannot. I need a taxi back. Borat is, and finally he ground aboard. So he's like, go without me. So I'm taking off. And as soon as the pressure change, the jet pressurizes and the pressure change hits me, I'm like, nope. If I do not land right now, it's going to be bad. So we took off. It was runway, what was that, 4? So I took off, we're turning left over the city. And I told approach, I'm like, hey, I need to go direct to downwind. And they're like, okay, do you need assistance? I said, nope, cancel. I'm going back to tower. Dude, I went direct to downwind and landed. And they're like, what happened, sir? I said, you need to take me back right now. And dude,
I was there for this.
yeah, because Stoner and all those dudes made so many pictures about, coming in hot and, all the Top Gun flyover stuff. They made fun of me so much. But you know what, dude? I made it. And I made it just in time.
Bombs on target on time.
you
That's
did
all
it.
that matters.
Look, we brought back the live bombs. Jet was okay. Jet was still clean. I was still clean. That's all that matters.
Love it, dude. That's awesome. At the end of the day, we're just human beings.
Yeah, no, you know what? When it happens, it
Speak for
happens.
yourself.
Things just happen. And I never ate G-Dunk hot wings again. But I only had a week left, so that was kind of my third to last sortie in the F-16 or F-18. Sorry, the Hornet. Yeah, the mighty Hornet. Here you go. Cheddar says, pick one. Playing golf every weekend with the worst 06 for 1 year, or have your call sign changed to Pampers Forever. Pampers.
So,
Pampers.
Dude, would
I'm
you
gonna
like
go
to play
golf.
golf with Gregory? No.
but hold on a
Or
second.
Curtis? No.
When we sign off of this later, remind me of this comment.
Okay. Did you play a lot of golf?
No,
I don't even know how to play golf, dude. I can play
It's not
putt.
hard.
Gonky,
You
do you
just
know how to play golf?
you get hammered and you miss the ball a lot. It's
That's
not
the
that hard.
problem.
I know the gist of it. I'm terrible, though.
Yeah. I mean, I know the gist. You hit the ball into the hole. I mean, yeah, we all know the gist, Gonky.
It's really complex sport.
The gist is not the problem. Anyway, Mover was going in for guns. Actually, I think that would have been not the gun. That's
not guns. I hope not. Anyway, yuck.
That's Rocket Ripple. Oh, hey, Big Chris. Thank you. I'm 26 PPL. Is it too late to become a? Of course not.
No.
The Navy's 32 now. Air Force is 33.
Yeah.
So
don't self-eliminate, man.
Hell yeah. Cluter says, get with the Dose Green Ghost to write a song about your Code Brown mover. Are they still making songs?
I don't know.
I don't know. I thought they had a Code Brown song, didn't they? I don't know. It's been so long since I've listened to them. It's been like 20 years, man.
There are those that have and those that will. I mean, it's just life. All right, Douglas, you ready to move on to the mental health minute?
I can do that.
So today, hold on, let me do the intro here. Today's mental health minute is imposter syndrome. And before I go into that, I would like to emphasize the fact that do not make a temporary problem permanent. Don't take permanent solutions to temporary problems. If you or someone you know needs help, 988 is a good resource. Talk to somebody. The VA has veteran support. Military One Source, if you're still in. And there's also just clergy, your bros, even law enforcement and local communities have outreach programs. Don't suffer alone. Get the help you need. Always talk to somebody, because we don't want you to make a permanent decision there when you don't need to, because no matter what you're going through, you can get through it. But today is a little bit different. We're going to talk about imposter syndrome. And the reason Douglas is bringing it up is because it's actually something I've dealt with, which apparently it affects women mostly. So be that as it may.
Sorry.
Douglas, we'll talk about, but I'm not a woman. But apparently it's anyway. I thought that was funny. Douglas, take it away. Let me stop talking.
Okay. I actually have a slide for this. College professors can't talk without a slide. There's a change in progress, changing it from imposter syndrome to phenomenon, because it isn't actually a diagnosable disorder. So if anybody wants to, be the kind of person who corrects everybody else's language, there you go. It's a pattern of, well, let me get into the backstory a little bit. Mover, I had made you aware of this at some point as a possibility for something that you were dealing with. And I was aware of it because I was promoted early to a position where I didn't feel like I belonged, and had asked one of my mentors about it. We're all psychologists, so he said, "Hey, look this up," and this is what I got. It's a pattern of behavioral phenomena, including self-doubt of intellect, skills, or accomplishments, typically among high-achieving individuals. And there's a set of characteristics and behaviors that these folks will show, including over-preparation, usually followed by procrastination. So they get ready really, really carefully and then leave just enough to the last minute so that it still doesn't seem to work well in their minds. Perfectionism, setting impossible goals and then internalizing the failure to reach them. So they set an impossible goal, they fail to achieve it, and they blame themselves. Fear of failure. Failure would lead to exposure as a fraud. And one of the kind of through lines for all of this is that these things are both objectively unlikely for these people. These are people who are not prone to failure and who are not frauds, but this is, a look at their internal self-talk. Denial of competence, so they'll internalize their failures and externalize successes. If you have a win, it's because you got lucky, and if something goes wrong, it's because you're bad. Fear of success is also a part. These don't all apply to every single case, but the self-talk there is, I got lucky. There's no way I can keep this up, right? I just keep getting lucky. Every time I get it right, I got lucky. And the procrastination ties in there too, that there's some speculation that maybe some of these folks are like unconsciously sabotaging themselves, so that if I prepare really hard but leave something out and then I do fail, I can have an explanation. Particular risk groups amongst high achievers. It was originally discovered in a study of, I want to say female academics, but it might have been medical students, I'm not sure. It's common in academics across the board. This is something that we talked about, in my business for a long time with graduate students. There's just a lot of unreasonable goals set externally. Same is true for medical professionals. And I couldn't find any research that suggested that it was common amongst fighter pilots, but it doesn't sound too far out. I mean, if you think about the goal setting and the perfectionism and the striving for success. And I thought I would include some major strategies to combat this issue. One of the obvious ones, although it's not always easy to implement, is objective assessment of outcomes. We're talking about people who are successes here. These are people who, have valid successes, are objectively not a failure. So if one can find a way to objectively evaluate these things, a lot of times it'll break down the cycle a little bit. Trust the process and people who put you there. This is something I've told a lot of folks over the years when they've come to me with this. It's like, look, I was on the board that picked you. Trust me. There's a process that puts you in this position. The process only puts people who are good at this. You'll be fine. That kind of positive talk does work. Talk to others, and I'm not necessarily only referencing professional help here, but kind of going back to the first point here. Other people will say, hey, look, you're okay. It's the whole business of objective assessment of the outcomes. You deserve to be here. You're okay. You're good. You'll be fine. Reduce social comparison, particularly social media. I mean, if you want to go find unattainable goals and try to strive toward them, social comparison and social media particularly is a really good way to do that. And that's a bad thing. You don't want to hold yourself up to unreasonable standards. And then referencing back to something that you used as a mental health minute previously, just look at it in terms of gratitude. Accept that it's okay for one to be in a position of prominence or leadership or success. And we all know, I'm sure that, some people get there undeservedly, but a lot of people worked hard, and it's probably you that worked hard, and that's why you're there. Thoughts?
Yeah. So part of the reason I had Doug or asked Doug to talk about this, which hopefully we fixed the mic. Somebody was talking about the mic volume, so got that fixed. But one of the reasons I asked you to talk about this, Doug, is because I'm not only probably somebody that's been through this my entire career, but still am. Like it never stopped. It's not something that I'll say that I've done real well with in every aspect of my life. Everything I've ever accomplished, I've always put an asterisk by it, or but I did this, but perfect example, I graduated #1 in pilot training, right? And I'm like, but, I had flight experience before that. I become a fighter pilot. Yeah, but I'm a reservist. It's not the same as active duty. You'll find these different ways. I've done this with you, Gonky. I've talked about this, and you've talked me off the ledge a few times where I'm like, hey, dude, why am I talking about fighter pilot things? Because I'm not a real fighter pilot. And you're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, I'm not flying anymore. I don't have any credibility. And it's that, well, I only flew the Viper as a 4-ship flight lead. And then I, flew the Hornet as, well, it was an AdTac, it was an IP there. Like when you have this, when you start doing this, you start to try to, I guess, minimize it because you're like, well, I don't want to come off that way, but I also don't believe it myself. Wombat, you and I have talked about this, about self-publishing versus real publishing, right? Because we'll go, right, I've written, 11 books, and I'll be like, yeah, but they're all
which you should all go buy. But yes.
Well, but then I'll say, yeah, but they're all self-published, and
Yep.
I didn't pass the gatekeepers of the publishing world, which if you look at that realistically now, I've sold, we did the math the other day, which for legal reasons, this is a joke, but I mean, between the 11 books, there's been over 125,000 copies out. People who traditionally publish will sometimes never see those numbers, but me going, well, it's self-published, so I don't get the respect or the admiration like that. And then when something fails, like Gonky and I were talking about, where it's like, if it's the channel, Fights On was a big one, because Fights On, when that didn't work out, I blamed myself. I said, well, this is on me. And you do that. And Doug, I don't know that there is an easy, because it's hard to make yourself believe that you are, that stuff's not true, because you get so used to it. You get to go, because if you believe it, you either feel like you're, an egomaniac, or you feel like, well, if I believe that, then good things won't happen. Good things won't happen to me, because if I start acknowledging those good things, then bad things will start happening. But as long as I minimize it, as long as I keep it down, then I never have to acknowledge it, because it never really, hey, this good thing happened. Yeah, but, okay, managing expectations so you're not disappointed.
Yeah, behavioral therapy, and I'm trying to. One of the articles I read earlier referenced metacognition, which is thinking about how you think, which is something a lot of people don't spend a lot of time doing. And you just articulated that. You're recognizing this as a tendency in your self-talk and your thought, and that's a big step. But for me, it's the same thing. I mean, I've had a number of accomplishments where, just like you said, I qualify them. Well, I was a dean, but it was a small town 2-year college, that kind of thing. And therapists will tell you, just step up, take credit. It's okay.
Yeah. If MJ heard this right now, she'd be saying, own it, straight up own it, because you're the one that's putting that on yourself, not anyone else, but I don't know, especially in this position, the channel's got 400,000 subscribers, and you kind of get in the public eye. So you get used to people, you try to anticipate the negativity. So you're kind of like, well, if I don't, then, I'm less at risk of somebody tearing me down. If I tear myself down, it keeps them from doing it first. And I think a lot of that's a defense mechanism.
Yeah, there's that piece of it, and it ties in with self-esteem levels. There's some fundamental insecurities in some of us that just keep us from owning it, I guess. I'm interested in what the other two think, and my observation, whether that kind of sounds like a recipe for at least some fighter pilots.
Gonky? Gonky's never had a self-esteem problem, so he has nothing to say on this topic. Next, suck it up.
If you're great,
What's wrong with you,
don't
dude?
use it.
Yeah, right. You don't have to be humble if you're perfect.
Yeah.
He has that
No,
on his shirt,
it's
actually.
you know what's fun? I've never actually heard of imposter syndrome until now. And reading through it, I'm like, oh man. I mean, I've definitely struggled with a lot of that stuff. And I can see how it can really, handcuff you as far as just functioning, right? Trying to do new things and whatnot. I mean, even this show, right? Mover, like when we were first talking about trying to do a podcast, it's like, we were shooting ourselves down. We were telling ourselves no, right? So
yeah,
I don't want to sound super preachy, but I'm a terrible sinner, but like I really do believe like God's got a plan for me and everybody. And if I have faith, it's going to be okay. That's how I deal with a lot of things that were, as far as the imposter syndrome, of basically the self-attacks. That's how I deal with it, because that's kind of how I go through life. And because I acknowledge that I really am a normal dude who has just been, really blessed with amazing opportunities throughout my life. And I can't explain it. So I just have to give credit to a higher power, but I don't get, I'm not a pastor or preacher or nothing, but that's how I look at it. But I mean, I have definitely struggled with imposter syndrome. I've just never heard the term imposter syndrome before.
Yeah. Wombat.
I freaking hate imposter syndrome. It's crippling.
Yeah.
It ranks tied for number one in my mind, which I can't even think of the word, when you feel like you're the one that should have died. You know what I'm talking about.
Survivor guilt.
That's
Survivor
survivor guilt. Yeah.
So imposter syndrome and survivor guilt are the two things that I can't freaking stand. And I never had imposter syndrome as a Hawkeye pilot, ever. We had a lot of guys that, I mean, dude, if you meet a Hawkeye guy that tells you he didn't want to fly jets, he's lying to you. Let's be honest. Like we all did. Like, I mean, nobody was like, it'd be really cool is hopping in a plane with 4 of your buddies, doesn't have an ejection seat, and your mission is to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and wait for something to break and then come back aboard the ship. Like, nobody looked at that in flight school as their goal. Like, I don't care who you are. Like, that's just not the reality of it. So I never had it there because I was proud of what I did. I was proud of what I achieved. Gonky knows, going through flight school, like, I mean, I was the epitome of just happy to be there because I shouldn't have. I mean, like, sweet God. I mean, the competition was just stupid. The fact that I got through is insane. But then when I switched to Hornets, it hit me. And I didn't realize it hit me until looking back on it later in life. But like, because I felt like I didn't belong. And some of that had to do with some of the people in my squadron who told me I didn't belong specifically. So that may have kind of led to this a little bit. But it was like everything I did was to prove that I should be there, to prove that I had earned this. But in my mind, I didn't believe it myself, and that affected me. And then, all the struggles I went through and medical stuff I went through. And then finally, just to get back to flying, I was just happy to be a pilot again. But then it reared its ugly head with writing and mover. You know this. I mean, we've had many conversations and I'm like, this is dumb. What am I writing? Nobody wants to read my crap. Like, it's garbage, blah, 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 blah. I mean, you name it. And it's debilitating and is the number one enemy of achievement of your goals that you can have, because it literally will sit there in your brain and fester, and you'll never know that somebody's dealing with it. They could be your best friend. They could be right there for you, right there with you. You'll never know that they have this going on in their head, and it just festers of them just putting themselves down and down and down and down. And all that it's doing is wasting time. All it's doing is just delaying the goal. It's like our mind's way of sabotaging ourselves. And it drives me nuts. I was literally just having a conversation today with a buddy of mine about how our minds work and how literally our brain will attack itself to sabotage itself. Like you can have two conscious thoughts. I had one this morning and I laughed at it because I recognized it, that were literally competing thoughts. Like one was like, I'm really bummed that this is happening. But the other one was like, I'm really bummed that this is this way. And I'm like, well, those, you can't have one without the other. Right. And that's what this is you would just get into this perpetual loop that you're not going anywhere. And it drives me nuts. And what I will tell you, number one, Mover, I think you are coming out of it, frankly, from an outside source, just for what it's worth. I mean, you're not out yet, but you're coming out. But I will tell you, like, I feel like I am out of it at this point, at least with the writing. Like I made a conscious decision about 4 months ago, probably right before the second book came out, where I was like, you know what, dude, screw it, man. I wrote a bestseller. Whatever. Like it or hate me now, I don't care. I'm going to focus on, and it was on your slide, Doug. It was the last thing, like focusing on, I forget the exact verbiage, but it's the gratitude. I do deserve this, the thankful. And it's funny because I made an Instagram post last month about Tailhook and all this. And like the comment I made of, you know, why aren't you at Tailhook was like, well, because if it's not my family, my faith, or my health, like it's not important to me. Like if it doesn't directly positively affect one of those three things, don't care, period. And you know, to me, family is not just my wife and kids or my parents. You know, you guys are family. There's a small circle of friends that, as you know, fall into that family. But when I made that conscious decision to change, it's like everything got clear again. It's like it didn't have control over me anymore. You know, people at work, and it happens, and you know, somebody will be like, "Oh, did you know that that he writes books?" And a year ago, I'd be like, "Nah, you know, well, it's self-published." Same thing you're talking about, Mover. Like, "Oh, it's self-published." Well, now I'm like, "Yeah, man, you want a bookmark? Like, bestseller in that." I don't know. Like, I mean, and they're like, "Man, I want to buy it." I go, "Well, it might suck, but the good news is you have to pay me before you get to read it." So hope you like it. A lot of other people have. Some people have hated it. So like, it's really freed my mind up to just be able to be like, you know what? What's really important? Like, is what some idiot on social media says to me about my writing when they've never even remotely gone after a goal in their whole life matter to me? It doesn't. Because what difference does it make? That's just somebody who's feeling bad about themselves who's attacking me on social media, much to the slide talking about social media, right? They're trying to knock people down. But what they don't realize when they're doing that is it's creating this doubt. It's creating this imposter syndrome in people, right? And it's toxic. It's truly toxic. The things that we do to each other as a society because of social media is toxic, because you don't realize how you're affecting those other people. But here's the flip side of it. You also don't realize the pros, right? I mean, and that's what I try to remind you of, Mover, is like, think of all the people that you've helped that you would have never, ever, ever been able to help because of your channel, because of your social media, because of you just being you. I mean, to me, it's worth it. I'll deal with the bullshit. I'll deal with the haters. I'll deal with the people, because if I can reach out and help those one or two people, it's worth it. I can put that on me. But the hard part is that transition from going from, oh my God, every little one of these comments chips away at me just a little bit, to finally being like, who's that dude? Like, whatever, delete.
Case in point right here. This dude, I've been sitting here staring at this since it came out. And this was almost 10 minutes ago, but the dude went from like super chats to unsubscribed and announcing his departure. And I have no idea why. Like, you sit there and
the good
you're
news
like,
is,
what did we do?
Much like anything else, you don't have to announce your departure from a channel you don't want to watch anymore, because nobody cares about you.
I don't understand. Well, we'll talk about focusing on the negativity.
So that's my point. I
yeah.
can't stand imposter syndrome, because it is so much more debilitating. I mean, Gonky's a prime example. Somebody who's had it didn't even realize it. And that sucks, because if you have it and don't even realize it, how do you know to combat it?
Well,
so
I think it's something that, if, like you said, if unrecognized, it can be debilitating, but
100%.
also it can have unintended consequences in how you view your career. You know, every time I talk to Gonky and I say, "Hey dude, I need to go fly." Like, why? I need to go get a flying job. I need to go get a military flying job. Why? Well, because I don't have any credibility right now. He's like, what are you talking about? Well, I don't have any credibility. You know, I haven't flown. I'm not flying anything right now because you will then, if you do not work on your own self-esteem and your own, if you don't get rid of imposter syndrome, then the trolls or the people that are negative will affect you twice as much, because you'll believe it every time somebody says, hey dude, you're just a washed up fighter pilot, you don't know anything, you'll believe that. Every
Yep.
time somebody says you're just a self-published author, your books are terrible, you'll believe that. Like you will internalize the negative and never accept the positive, and it becomes a vicious cycle of, okay, I need validation. It's negative. Okay, I believe that. I'll never be good enough. I'll never have that level of self-esteem. Meanwhile, your friends are going, dude, you realize the stuff you've done?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I don't think it's worthy.
And because of the imposter syndrome, you don't feel like you belong to the group of friends, right? There's no way these people would accept me. They don't know
me.
they don't know who
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. They don't, if they really knew who I was, they wouldn't be saying all this good stuff about me, and you can write it off.
You're worried that you will be discovered. That's the whole thing of imposter syndrome, is you're worried that one day somebody's going to pull back the curtain and go, aha, you were faking it the whole time. And going back to my very first
Faked
point,
it damn good though, didn't I?
well, but circling back to the very first thing I said about talking to somebody 988 and stuff, because if left unchecked,
Yeah,
that's the road you might walk down.
That first conversation is really difficult.
Yeah, because people kill themselves because they believe they are not worthy. They believe they're not good enough, and they believe that somebody's going to out them. And if they get outed, their life is over. But the idea is to get beyond that, which this channel does not offer psychologically. I have put all these waivers and
Yeah,
stuff.
we need another banner.
And then another banner. But what I'm just saying is you need to go talk to somebody. You need to figure it out, because it can go down a very dark path. So awesome. Doug, any reattacks before we move on? It's like super late. I can see Gonky fading.
That was it.
Okay.
I'm wide awake,
Cool.
dude.
Yeah, okay.
Wide awake. He's just looking old. That's all.
It's his internet's frozen, so he looks like he's we got a couple from the kids at home. Jordan says, hey mover, just heard that New Orleans is about to have some seawater issues with the Gulf trying to become part of the river. Watch yourself down there, man, as though water is about to become undrinkable. We don't I'm on a different, I'm not actually in New Orleans, so I'm not on that train, so it just means New Orleans is going to be even crazier. Good luck. Yeah, but thank you. Seth says, when it comes to recruitment, do you think there is a culture issue? The character limit constraint would make it difficult to articulate the notion I'm thinking of, so I'll leave it there. I think that, so if you're talking about like Gonky, you look like you know something. You're nodding.
I think probably. I think there is.
No, that's actually a light bulb behind him. That's not coming from his head.
The star field behind him from the moon.
Idea. It's an idea.
I mean, no.
I think it's part of it.
I think
it's part of it.
Yeah, I think there is a culture. There's a generational issue in that, instant gratification, instant, everybody wants everything right now or yesterday. But I do think in general, because I get a lot of emails. I don't think overall that's a problem, because I get a lot of emails of people who are just like, how do I do it? There's a lack, despite the vast amount of information on the internet, there's still a lack of information, because there's so much chaff. There's so much BS. There's so much, Reddit. There's so much crap out there that they will believe
Fake
or buy
news.
in. Yeah. I mean, oh God, don't get us canceled, Gonky. Come on, man. You Chuck Yeagered us last time.
There you go.
There it is. Well, no, it's only if you say it. If I say it, it's fine. But
Gotcha.
there's so much bad information that's almost worse than no information, because with no information, you just do it. You're just like, I don't know why I wouldn't do it. Why not? Okay, I'm going to try it and make them tell you no is much easier when you don't know anything. But when you got the world of the internet with people that have their preconceived notions, I mean, I've seen this in this profession. I see this in law enforcement. There's nothing funnier or sadder, I guess, than watching a law enforcement video, a body cam video, and watching all the internet lawyers tell you why this was illegal. This was illegal. You know, a cop can't make you get out of the car. A cop can't do this. And you're like, dude, have you not, like, you could pick up a book and just look up some of these Supreme Court cases that says the exact opposite of what you're saying. You know, but there's so much bad information because people are like, I know this. I'm an authority. It's the opposite of the imposter syndrome. Doug, what's that? The imposter syndrome? I don't know.
Douchey syndrome.
It's one piece of Dunning-Kruger. We could do a whole podcast on Dunning-Kruger.
Dunning-Kruger. That's right. But anyway,
you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. High levels of incompetence. Anyway,
That's a good question.
Auburn says, thank you for this mental health minute. I really needed this. Hits home hard. Awesome. Another person I'll give a shout out to that also emphasizes this on her social media is Mace Curran. She talks about it a lot. She talked about it when I did the interview with her on this channel. Doug and I have been talking about imposter syndrome for a better part of a decade now, but she talked about it here, and I really appreciated it because I think it's cool that she's bringing light to that. So go check out her stuff. I think she's doing speaking and stuff now too. Eric says, best show ever. Wombat is on fire. That's probably when that dude's unsubscribed. Question for Gonky and Mover. New jobs or A&G or AFRC? AFRC for both of us. Congrats on the new jobs.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
RFC.
Franz, Aaron Franz. I like saying Franz. That's probably not how you say it, though. I'm sorry. I've heard people say you can be your own worst enemy or your biggest asset. Yep. I think the hardest part is realizing that you can be both.
Bingo.
And controlling it. You have to control it.
Oh, yeah. I agree, because the opposite of imposter syndrome is reading your own press and thinking you're awesome. So you have to find that line in between where it's like not everything negative everybody says is horrible and true about you, but then you're not perfect. So like you have to keep working.
Humility is important. But also, I mean, your mind can be the greatest weapon against you. Look at anxiety. Look at people that struggle. You know, we've talked about it. The anxiety, the panic attacks, the claustrophobia, all these little things. That's your mind turning against you. And if you've never been in that situation, if you've never felt that, you can look down on somebody and go, look, well, suck it up, buttercup. You know, you could be like Gonky down here, who's never had a negative thought in his entire life as a golden retriever.
Well,
but
in his defense, there's not a lot of thoughts. So, I mean, it's statistics.
Sorry, sir. Please don't fire me. Please don't.
This is a fun dynamic.
Yeah.
He has gotten more mature now that he's the boss.
Dude, you should have heard him the other day telling me about the new job. I'm like, Gonky's having some big conversations over there. But thank you for that. Auburn says, thank you for that brief view on your faith in God. I believe a bunch of us here would love to hear more from you about your faith. That's Gonky's strongest suit. Sincerely held. Unless, depending on who you talk
to. When you're born below average, it's all I got.
He's praying for slightly above, slightly below average. Janitor has double subscribed. Thank you.
Perfect.
Makeup.
Nice.
Wombat, how do you deal with being the best looking dude on this podcast?
I'll tell you, it's my cross to bear.
Look at Gonky's just losing it down here.
It's my cross to bear. Because I'm leaning out. Gonky, they like the new skinnier Wombat. You got. Hey, I'm just saying. Just saying.
Yeah.
Don't read your own press, man. Competition's coming after you, is all I'm saying.
Thank you, Doggo. Longtime watcher, first time super chatter. Consider me subbed, if only for this mental health chat. I constantly deal with imposter syndrome as a former deployed contractor. It's a sneaky SOB. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Thanks, man.
Laura says, you guys are the best. Thank you. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
And then last but not least, Makadama. I'm sharing this with my high school students. Hoo-ah. There you go, Gonky. You got to clean up your act if we're going to be shared with high school students.
Yeah, let's take out some of the stories I tell.
You got to clean up your computer there, Mover, if you're going to be.
Oh, bazinga. Uh-huh.
Oh, they're waiting forever.
Wow.
It feels so good.
Yeah. All right. Well, dude, listen, I think we've had enough here. I think this has been a informative. Oh, nope. Banks says, very much enjoyed the show, fellas. Hope this monetization makes it worth it. That becoming my favorite show. Thank you. I'm
Thanks, man.
going to say this one was on the low end of our quality.
What?
I think it's one of the best. Don't you want that? I think it's literally one of the best. Especially that time was just me
that
and you.
moment. Yeah, where like
And
you
Doug?
left, like it peaked, and Doug, yeah, like that. It had really peaked there. It was doing good, and like it trailed off after that for some reason. But it was probably the best one I've ever been on. I'm not gonna lie to you. Specifically, at 2 to 4 minutes where you had to go poop, and you said your computer broke. That was.
Did it freeze? Like what happened? What did you guys see?
You just dropped off. You were
Oh,
just
really?
gone.
Yeah,
it was like being on a podcast.
Everything
with Gonky.
froze.
I was like,
did you see me had to go down and so to speak and like hit the reset button on the computer?
Nope, you were gone. You were already gone.
Yeah, you were gone.
I was like,
Dude, it was awesome because in my mind,
Doug,
all I can
where
think
is
of
he?
is inevitably.
Everybody
Gonky's
figured
gonna
I
have
knew
the
what was
same
going
thing.
on.
Like, so I'm sitting here.
I know,
like,
Doug.
what
I thought you
happens
knew
when
what was going
Gonky
on.
falls off,
Yeah.
and now it's
Well,
just me.
You have to have
Like,
contingency plans. I'm glad.
I didn't
you know what?
have a contingency plan for
I'm
that.
proud of you guys. I'm proud that you guys are able to carry the show without me.
Dude, we spent 4 minutes making fun of you. That's all we did. It wasn't that hard. Don't pat us on the back.
He's going to be able
You
to watch
gave us
the
the ammunition.
Did
We
you
just fired
complete
it.
the thing about the
Yes.
Russian guy? I have things to talk about with that.
We stayed on task and on time.
I wanted to talk about the fact that we've had issues shooting down balloons and we're not in a position to make fun of the Russians.
Made it.
That's a good point.
Covered.
Gonky brought up.
You made that point?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was-
Well, then
we didn't talk about
what
the
do y'all
balloons.
need me for? You really don't need me.
You're going to have to watch your own VOD for the first time.
Yeah, I'm going to have to see what happens.
That'll all be cut out.
Tune
That's
in
the
next week when we find out if Mover's internet works again. My internet's fine. Thank you for asking. All right. Well, I think I've had enough. Guys, anything else before we leave? Around the room, Douglas?
All good here.
Thank you as always. Great job with your PowerPoint.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Like that.
It was only one slide.
That was perfect. One was enough.
all you need.
Wombat,
Nah, man. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
thanks for coming on the show. Go buy his book,
It's a
Treason Flight, Vengeance Flight.
Yes.
It sucks being the guy with the least amount of books on camera right now.
Yeah. But you're not an imposter, Wombat. You're the real
Well, I
deal.
feel a little bit like it now, to be honest with you. You keep bragging about 11.
This
Gonky's
seems
got a
about Gonky.
trequel.
Look, you and I, we write a bunch of books. We're like, oh, we're imposters. Nobody reads our stuff. Gonky just bebops in, does
He's
a
like,
couple coloring books,
"Here's
and he's
some
like,
drawings."
look how published I am.
Yeah,
I
he's
am
like-
the greatest author in the history of authors. It's like, Gonky, you do letters. I
Yeah.
am the greatest author. Look at my books on Amazon. Like, all right, dude.
Dude, all I could
should
envision
never
is
said that.
Gonky advertising his letter book for kids, being like, not only am I the author, but I'm a member. Like, I've used it to help me.
Not only am I'm a reader and a writer. And I drew this
God,
letter.
that's awesome.
This book works. My letter
Yeah.
A's are getting better.
Today's letter is G for Gonky. Today's
Hey,
episode is brought to you
son
by
loved
the
it,
letter
by the
G.
way. So
What?
my son loves his books. So
Of course.
He's
Yeah,
my
I
official.
know.
He's one of my testers. I always test my products on.
yeah.
Gonky has gotten in
Real
trouble
kids.
for talking to me about his books.
No. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true.
He didn't want to talk about it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's fun. I appreciate it, even though it's late and I'm exhausted. But
Yeah. Well,
It's all
so
good.
buy everybody's book except mine.
no,
No,
use
buy
our
Mover's
own,
books.
Don't represent the
Buy 'em.
DoD. And thank you for your service to our country. Oh, wait, no. Tom says, awesome show. Even more awesome was Wombat.
Wombat. But
So next, we're going to start making that a thing. Wombat.
no, I'm
Dude, that works. It's just like Tomcat.
but better.
That's right, dude.
We're getting slap happy here in the evening hours. All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching. See ya.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.